Hello. Hello, Timothy. Hello, Draco Kraken. What is up? Hello, hello. I hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Excuse me. I hope the boys get online. That'd be cool. I don't actually know if they are. That's the thing. Um, I have been failing in my communication skills these days. So, you know, it happens. It does happen. Almost have 100 hours in Balatro? Holy shit, dude. I hear Balatro is really good, so I'm glad for you. I have not ever played Balatro, and if I did, I probably would also do the same thing, but to my absolute detriment of not sleeping and such. It'd be pretty cool. I I recently took apart part of my old computer. Um and only because the old 3090, no, not 3090, 3060, 30 something. The old GPU that I was using, it was too big, and the little thing that holds all my hard drives was in the way. So so first off, I was an idiot and I bought some stuff. Because I was like, I can just like set it on its side and stuff without ever trying to like see if it's, if it worked. Um, so I spent like, I spent a little bit. I think it was like $60 on like a sideways stand for the graphics card, so that it could stand sideways. Instead of being like plugged into the motherboard, it was gonna be freestanding, and then I was gonna plug in a ribbon, or a riser, excuse me, a PCIe riser. Oh, technical terms. Um, and then I realized that the holder didn't come with a riser. I thought it did. So I was going to buy another one, or I was going to buy one along with it, and then I was like, wait a minute, what if I could like, I don't know, open up the computer and like move things? Whoa! And so I did that. Um, I unscrewed a lot of things, took them apart, uh, and now the 3090 works in that computer, which is good because that means that I can use that computer when I'm in bed and just laying down and don't want to do basically anything. It's nice. It also means that I can play things on it which aren't which need a bit of a better graphics card. So that's my story. Wow. It's really cool. I like roguelikes. I'm glad. I'm glad. Roguelikes are fun. Depends on the roguelike, of course. Not all roguelikes suit my fancy, unfortunately. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to TableTalk Discussion and Discourse. I, as always, am your host, Alejo, aka Great95. Like I said before, I don't know if the other two are going to be dropping by. Like I said, have failed my communication. And it is just me right now. So, we'll see. Slay the Spire 2 has been solid. Not much that new though. Well, I mean, as long as it's, good, that's fine, right? It's unfortunate that not that much is new though. That's kind of what you hope for a sequel. I I was talking about this before, but I got into RimWorld again. That shit's fun. I like that game. I need to get the other DLC for it so I can do more stuff with all the mods and stuff that people have made. It's fucking cool. The other thing that I was playing it today actually. I was playing Death Stranding. Um, I started that game a while back, and I never finished it, and I was like, oh, maybe I should play that game more. That game's fun, even if it's weird. I mean, obviously, like Metal Gear is weird, but it's super fun. Um, but like Death Stranding is like its own version of weird, you know? It's good times. It's very good. Weird to see Norman Reedus carrying a fetus. Um, it's funny. There's like advertising in it too. There was like an AMC fucking show advertised on it. It was weird. They took away the Monster energy drinks though, and I was like, man, you rimming, bro? Yeah, dude, absolutely. Every day. I hope I can play Slay the Spire someday. Do it, dude. It's a good game. I don't know anything about the second one, but if it's anything like the first one, it's probably pretty solid. Anyway. I don't know. Balancing and being the greatest American hero, the postman, is pretty cool in Death Stranding. And I threw my blood at something and it killed it. That was neat. I don't know. The game's weird. Anyway, highly recommend. Game called Prime Monster I want to check out. Cool. Did I already say hello, Entropy? I think I did. But if I didn't, hello, Entropy. I'm already losing my mind. Okay. Well, tonight, everybody, we are going to be talking about some world building stuff. Now, I have a couple of things in the chamber. This first one is actually a joint video. You know those joint videos that you see these days? Where people, are both in the same, like, it's two channels in a video? Whoa. Crazy. That's, like, a thing, I guess. I don't know. It's neat enough. I like it in the sense of, like, being able to click through and find, you know, other people's channels that way, when they do contribute, and it's neat. But when I saw this one, okay, well, that's the wrong screen. When I saw this one, I was like, oh, that's interesting. This is a video, from Ginny D, but also from the Dungeon Dudes. They're both in this video. I think this is on Ginny D's channel. In fact, I would absolutely assume that it is, because Ginny D is the person in the little thing. But yeah, this is called "You're Making World Building Harder Than It Has to Be." And I'm like, okay. Sure, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm doing it just the way that I want to. It really depends, right? Because we've talked about it many a time before. We've talked about world building being basically as detailed as you want to make it, right? So like, however much you want to spend in your time, in your investment, usually gets rewarded at least enough for you in prep or in knowledge, or in what your players can discover, right? So, we'll see. We'll see. Ginny, Garabay's favorite creator. That's right. Exactly. You didn't. I was highly offended, but I suppose I can forgive. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Maybe you're making world building easier than it has to be. True. True. Yeah, so, we'll see. This is like a 22-minute video. Yeah, there you go. You can see it now. Thank you, Watch Together. So, it's a 22-minute video, and I'm interested to see what we have here in terms of how to make things easier, if they really apply, I guess, or if this is going to be very generic in information, you know? Ginny D has not failed us yet. There are times where we disagree, back in the day, in fact, but usually knocks it out of the park. Now, the interesting wrinkle here is that we have the dungeon dudes as well, right? So that's the side that I'm like, okay. Because, and I assume that this is happening because they are a part of that actual play that is being done on the Dungeon Dudes channel. I think that's where it is. And I think Ginny's on it, right? Am I crazy? Am I going inside? Where they're doing that very, very high production value kind of thing, as far as I can tell. I have never watched it. I should, probably, but I have never watched it. So, yeah, I assume that's why they've been collabing a bit more. All of the people that are in that kind of project seem to be collabing a lot more. So I suppose we'll see what it's got, what we have as contributions from each of the creators. World building can be easy or hard based on my experience. Oh yeah, absolutely. It really just depends on exactly what you want to do and how much you want to put into it, really. Ginny D makes me curious and Dungeon Dudes not so much. Exactly. That's the kind of a thing of like, oh, So, I suppose, without further ado, let us get going.
I've always struggled with world building. I never know how much to build, where to stop, or what's actually going to matter to my players. So I asked...
Why? Sorry, just immediately. So, here's my first immediate thought is, yeah, your players might not care about everything that you do, but if you want to put it in there for your world, you might as well, right? If you want to put in the work and stuff to just make it however you want, go for it, you know? Like, everybody seems to be trying to do the easy way, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If it works better for you to do things very easily, then do so, right? If you're trying to find ways to minimize the time that you have to put into world building, absolutely do so. What I would argue for is giving yourself the time to actually create this world as fleshed out as you want it to be, right? Don't try to just start a game as soon as possible if you want to, like, take the time to actually make your world more, I guess, quote-unquote immersive, quote-unquote, have a lot more depth to it, you know, all this kind of stuff. If you want that, you're going to have to take the time, okay? And you can stumble on it more as you play, even. You can world build as you play with your players, right? They can help with creating a lot of your world just based off of what they ask and what they contribute because of their characters, right? So, it's just one of those things where I guess I don't understand like why it would be a roadblock, I guess. I guess the analysis paralysis of like trying to include a lot of interesting stuff rather than stuff that you just want to include, I guess. And not knowing where to start is somewhere that would make it a little more difficult, right? But even so, Ginny D and Dungeon Dad would be cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. I would so wear that shirt. It's a nice shirt. It pops. And also, hello, Pizza Funk.
Two of the best world builders I know, the creators of the wildly successful, any award-winning Drakenheim setting, Monty and Kelly of the Dungeon Dudes.
Oh, holy shit. They've won an award for their setting? I had no idea. That's crazy. Okay.
My name is Monty Martin.
And I'm Kelly McLaughlin, and we are the Dungeon Dudes.
You can only get this on my channel now, because apparently they don't do that on theirs anymore. But when I asked...
Do they not? Have they not done that? I could have sworn that... And to be fair, we have been watching, like, older videos and stuff of theirs, but I thought I could have sworn they still do. Anyway, sorry.
What they had learned from writing the Drakenheim books that could help home GMs, their answer really surprised me. Not just because it taught me something new, but because it sounded way easier than whatever I was doing. It's like taking a peek at Gandalf's spellbook and realizing it's just 4 sticky notes and a Trader Joe's receipt.
My man does not have a spell book. That's alright, but we can just move on.
According to the Dungeon Dudes, the real key to good world building is doing less of it. They shared a ton of great tips about how to figure out which world building to skip and which is gonna pay off at the table.
And it makes your world feel vast, mysterious, and like ever-growing and weirdly credible. Like it's weird how this idea of doing less work makes your world feel bigger.
So here are the 3 things you're probably overdoing and why letting go of them will make your life easier and your campaign better.
A lot of people.
Oh boy. Ooh. All right. Okay. All right. What do you think the 3 things are? I'm excited. Remember to paraphrase King of World Building Todd Howard, space is mostly empty, so should Starfield. Oh god, Starfield. Alright. Yeah, no, that's true. 3 people at the table instead of 2, my mind hurts. Exactly. Okay, so for the 3 things, here's what I'm thinking, okay? I'm thinking politics, like political aspects of your world is going to be one of them, okay? Because they're going to be like, oh, you don't need to worry about all the connections and stuff, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to also say probably they're going to do like you want to focus on the grand scheme of things rather than the specifics like of each town. So it's going to be don't do every single one individually. Do everything around first. Do your world first, really, and then go into your towns. And third, what is the third thing that people usually give as like this is something you shouldn't focus on so much? Oh god, I can't even think of one. I actually can't think of a third one. Because it's not going to be logistics. Nobody talks about logistics. It's not going to be it's really not. I doubt it's going to be geography either, because geography is kind of important, but people don't really talk about that. I'm trying to think of like more generic kind of stuff. I guess like no, it's not coming to me. I have no idea. Okay. I only have 2, so we'll see what the third one is. Anyway.
Starting to play D&D will pick up an adventure book. And they're like, well, I want to write my own, and I need to write something that looks and feels like an adventure book. And that is just like, that is so not true, and you should not learn that lesson. You should not think that you need to write as much as is in any of the adventure books that you've seen.
Going into this interview, I thought...
Okay, interesting. Fast travel points, escort quests, bandits who see your endgame armor and try to rob you anyway. Maybe. Maybe the fast travel point thing. I don't know about the escort quest thing. I don't think anybody's going to talk about that for world building stuff. The interesting point, though, that we have so far is to not do things like an adventure that you see that's published. Now, what... I suppose it's not a bad place to start, if you use it as a reference guide, I guess. But if it is going to be something that you stick to, like, I don't see the... I guess, yes, you could burn yourself out quickly if you try to do it in detail, like the adventure books. Oh, that was sarcasm? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm bad at noticing that in text. But anyway, so I think a lot of people, at least these days, would also say not to do that, but for totally different reasons. Because apparently these days, the adventure books don't seem to be doing things as well as they could be. But then again, I know nothing about current adventure books. Now, I will say, if you will give me just a moment, I do need to use the restroom very badly. So, do I not have... I know I have it here somewhere, and I will find it. Is it that one? Break time. There you are. Hello. I found you, break time. Break time. Give me like 2 seconds. I'll be right back. Wow. Okay. What's very convenient that I can do is put up that that overlay and also mute myself with Discord so you can see it when I'm not there. That's crazy. All right, sorry. Hello. I didn't bring the milk. I'm sorry. I'm not your dad. I didn't leave for milk. I left for me. I've been trying to come up with the dynamics the Moon Valley has with other countries since Cornell took over and started standing up against the ones that picked on the Moon Valley. Country used to be the punching bag of the area. That's why Cornell picked it. He knew a beaten down country would become a new rule. Yeah. I suppose, depending on reputation and, I guess the attitudes of other countries' leaders, if they want to conquer or if they want to show themselves as superior or if they just want to be peaceful, you know, like how it is. It depends on each of their goals and maybe even what the public wants. Maybe the public hears about their kingdom and they go, ooh, hey, we should take care of that. You know, something. Restrooms forgot that the most important part of world building. Yes, yeah, it's true. You gotta have a shit house, okay? That's just the place you gotta go. It's crazy. Anyway. What were we talking about? I've forgotten.
But who better to teach world building than the guys who built the world of Drakkenheim? It's the setting for their 7-year actual play show, which just ended a few weeks ago with over 200
This video came out 4 months ago.
episodes, some of which I'm in. But don't let that scare you off, it's a great show. They've published 3 Drakkenheim books, a campaign book, a setting guide, and a monster book, raising over $3 million on Kickstarter between them. Weaker men would have stolen that money to fund a mad scientist laboratory and make real monsters. It's me, I'm Weaker Men. But even though the world of Drakkenheim is polished and complete and probably in use at thousands of tables across the world, it's actually the pre-publication version of Drakkenheim that Monty and Kelly told me game masters should be learning from. The version that looks less like a refined, expertly made tome and more like something you'd find crumpled in the bottom of Gandalf's laundry basket.
The fact is that when we wrote Dungeons of Drakkenheim, we were taking our notes, or Monty's notes, from running the actual play and turning them into a book. And we had to write about 10 to 15 times as much to make it into a functioning adventure book. You actually have to do maybe 10% of the work that you actually see in an adventure book. You just need enough prompts for you as the DM to understand how to bring it to life at the table.
And
I mean, that makes sense. You what you want to do. This is what I do with my my open world stuff. I make an outline. I make a very base, not base, a very loose outline of this is where I want it to go. We're starting from here. This is where I want it to go. Whatever happens in the middle, you know? What's also been helpful, at least for me with Vampire, is just, it is like the real world. But even when I make my own like stuff, coming up with the actual continent or continents, whatever it may be, and then going into like towns and such, and like placements of that kind of sort, has been like, that's what I did for, excuse me, I'm burping a lot because I'm drinking a energy drink. It's a Tropical Terror, I want to say. Yes. Tastes very good. It's pineapple-y. But that's what I do with that's what I did with the fantasy 5e world that I was making. It's been a long time since I've touched it. And I kind of went out of order in that as well, because I kind of wrote the like backstory, deep lore kind of stuff before I really made the land, and I also had a lot of the D&D stuff to kind of pull from, and trying to do some interesting like, or some different things with it, just to not have it be the straight up D&D stuff that you would always see, right? And I was just remixing a bunch of different things, a bunch of different gods. In fact, now I've thought about that a lot more, and I've thought about the gods and stuff, and I've thought about some ways that I would actually want to change it, and I might do that at some point, because that was all a first draft, really. It wasn't really much of a first draft, but, you know, it's something that I could kind of keep going back to and keep revising at this point, which is nice. Because nobody's ever played in it. That's not true. Nobody's really gotten into it too much. So it's ripe for it. His reasoning has some flaws, I think. It sounds like he's saying, I only used 20% in-game, and 100% in the book, but wouldn't your playgroup only see that 20% and another one might see a different 20%? Yes. That is true. So they're also seeming to advocate for just play in the world and you'll kind of figure it out along the way, which is also like true. But when they're making their campaigns and such, and they're doing that, they're able to do that to then create the book afterwards, right? So I guess, so they're not really telling people how to make a book, like an actual campaign setting. So never mind that thought. That's completely unnecessary. So I guess the real advice here is just go with what you've got and then keep making it up as you go along and fit things in, which is fine. Like I said, I said that that's a way you can do it. Because everybody knows that's a way you can do it. But whether or not that's easier for you is actually due to your personal like needs, right? Because as Stracokraken is saying, if you start the game here for this 20% that you made, quote unquote, and then you do it with another group and they go a completely different way, well, they don't know anything about that way. So they can come in and make, I guess, more of the world with that, which is fine. But it's just nice to have all of that, at least to a loose degree, beforehand. So I don't know. But let's listen to it again, because I'm not entirely sure if that's what he is saying.
Drakkenheim. We were taking our notes, or Monty's notes, from running the actual play and turning them into a book. And we had to write about 10 to 15 times as much to make it into a functioning adventure book. You actually have to do maybe 10% of the work that you actually see in an adventure book. You just need enough prompts for you as the DM to understand how to bring it to life at the table.
And I would say that every GM is going to find their own level. Like, I've played with and been the DM that was like, 1% of a book is enough for me to run a game. Some people need maybe 25%.
Of course, I figured that.
What if you need 100%? What if you're the person that does actually need 100%? I don't know. I'm just thinking. I'm just saying.
The book had more padding and polish than Monty's original notes, but the sheer scale difference that they're describing here really took me aback. 10 to 15 times as much content is pretty wild.
But why would that take you aback, though? Obviously they would want to make the book itself way more than what they've shown in their game. Right? Is that not what you want to do? If you're making a campaign setting, don't you want to make things that are new that people would actually buy the book for? Wouldn't you just, like, you wouldn't just want to reuse and rehash the exact same thing that you showed in your videos, right? So why were you taking it back, I guess? I don't know. Normal GMs only use 30% of their world. The secret Hokuto Shinken is to unlock the other 70%. True.
Look at a setting book and think, I need to create all this to run my game, I immediately panic. You might as well ask me to recite the Silmarillion from memory.
But like, why? But like, who thinks that, though? You know? Who thinks, like, they actually do need to write a whole book? Like I'm saying, there are people who might need that to run something, but like, I don't know. I think that most people at this point have gotten to that point of saying, oh, I'll make what I need. You know? I don't know. Hey, Full Metal Dragon, what's up? It also kind of matters what you're running. A classic dungeon dive doesn't need to know the political framework of the 3,000 years, usually. True. Yes. I'm immediately, like, weirded out a little bit just by the language, I guess, of being surprised that there's more in the book than what they were using when they were running the games, like, idly, like, in their day-to-day. You know? Yeah, no shit. I don't know.
10% or even 25% is a heck of a lot more manageable.
Yeah.
That's like one appendix of the Silmarillion. I've talked about this before on this channel, but I do not consider myself much of a world builder. I know that there are people out there who really thrive on creating continents and dynasties and long-reaching political histories, the Tolkiens and George R.R. Martins of the world, lovingly crafting lore that could crush a lesser mortal beneath the sheer weight of its pages. And that's just never been me. I really enjoy creating small pockets of a world, like a particular town or shop or forest, but whenever I try to create anything bigger than that, I just get overwhelmed and kind of give up. So hearing Monty and Kelly say that I don't need to be a Tolkien-esque lore factory to build a functional world honestly made me wonder if maybe there is a world builder inside me somewhere.
And you just now got to this point? 4 months ago? Okay. So, I guess, like, does it not follow logically that you would say, oh, I can make like this one little town, like this one little pocket of this world, and then maybe make another little pocket and see if I can get them to fit together, and then make like another little pocket and see if they fit together with the first two, and then like keep going until you have like a continent, basically? Is that not where the logic goes? Or like I'm genuinely curious, I guess, as to how this has never been a thought. But okay. All right.
A small, nervous one, like a blink dachshund. They can teleport and they're anxious about it.
I'll tell many dungeon masters that are running Dungeons of Drakkenheim, what you're holding in your hands in that book is an order of magnitude more material than I had when I originally ran the campaign. And I say that to remind dungeon masters that are running Dungeons of Drakkenheim for themselves that you don't need something written on the page that deals with every single eventuality, and that you should feel empowered to use your judgment in the moment.
That's something that should be, like... That's something that you should just have in general as you're playing the game, right? Like, you don't necessarily need it to be written down. And the obviously, the problem that we always find is people saying, well, there's too much here. And it's like, well, yeah, but you don't need to use all of it. Those are just options there for you. If you want less options, that's weird. But if you want there to be, like, if you just need permission to say, I don't need to worry about all these options, I don't think the book needs to give you that, but you should at least just have that inherently. So, yeah? Cool. I get this pocket of the world, and this pocket, and I make them kiss. Yeah, exactly. That's how you world build, right? Yours is a bit easier. It's been Cornell's been king for just 25 years. Yeah, that does help. I mean, if you're only focusing on a pocket in time, I mean, that's fine, you know? I mean, you don't have to make it all at once. I just make as I go. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. You can absolutely just make things as you need them, right? You also need to just worry about, like, you not necessarily worry, but just keep in mind, like, how your players play the game, you know? So if they need more, if you know that they need more from the worlds, then you can just make more for them, I guess. Like, more specific things, I guess. And you don't necessarily have to do it because of them, but you can do it because they are a potential person that will be in the world, right? So you can make some things that satisfy that curiosity that they might have when they try to dig into things. So I don't know, man. Note skills from high school do transfer over to notes for TTRPG campaign worlds. True. Yes, absolutely. I think a person should only world build if he or she actually enjoys the process. I think it's fine to just try it out, yeah, and then if you don't care for it, then don't worry about it, you know? Like, you can just use worlds that other people make. The campaign settings are there for a reason, you know? They help. The modules are fun to use. You might as well do it, you know? Like, there's nothing wrong with not world building. Absolutely. If you don't enjoy it. You've read my progress. Yes, I have. I know. Taking one pocket and another pocket and making them kiss is what we call an empire. True.
I think especially when a setting book is based on an actual play, it's easy for viewers to feel like in order to run a game like the one they see on camera, they need all the same information that's printed in the book. So I thought this was a great reminder that a lot of things only ended up in the book because players got interested in them.
I suppose that's a good thing to have for those niche markets, right? Well, maybe it's not so niche, but it's a niche of a niche, I guess. Just to remind people that they don't necessarily need to do the same exact thing, right? They don't need to have all the same information, but the campaign book is there for them to utilize as a template, really, if they want to have all of that information, you know?
Some of the most like canonical fixed elements of the world of Drakenheim were things that were kind of invented on a whim in the midst of play, and then became fixed because they were on a show and then got written into a book and then became what they are. But the only way to find out what things are fixed and what things are malleable is what actually happens at your game table.
That's the part I think we sometimes forget. A setting book is a reference, not a to-do list. It's there so that when something does come up in play, you have something to pull from. But if we peeked into every home Drakenheim campaign, I'm pretty sure we'd see one GM who's memorized the politics, one GM who skipped the politics in favor of introducing a sexy, romanceable eldritch abomination, and one GM who's forgotten most of the lore and is just running on vibes. The problem with using a setting book as a guideline for your own home game world building is that your goals are different. A book has to go into thousands of hands and work for thousands of tables, everyone from the ultra planners to the agents of chaos who are horny for abominations. It has to serve near infinite GM styles, but your home game prep only needs to serve you. Plus,
That's true. So, yeah. Just do things that you need to do for your table and yourself. I mean, simple as.
Monty says he thinks building out less of your world can actually make that world easier to play in.
I find that if you do a lot of prep, you can actually ossify elements of your world.
What the fuck does ossify mean? Holy shit. Okay, this is a word I don't know. I've heard it. Turn into bone? Oh, okay. Become rigid or fixed in attitude or position. Cease developing. There you go. Okay. Yeah, because like ossification is becoming a bone, as far as I know. Cool. Okay. So becoming rigid and unable to actually be malleable. I understand. Then that empire tries to kiss a lesser pocket and causes a rebellion. True. Then you have me who gets setting books for classes and feats and never uses the setting. Yeah, exactly. You know the fucking player's handbook for what is it? Oh Jesus. The player's guide to Faerun or whatever the fuck it is that I own that I literally can't remember. It's not on my shelf over there, I can't tell you. That one that I used for its feats, that even Wizards of the Coast went and took its feats and stuff and put them in a different book, didn't care about the setting at that point. Yeah, same thing. But here's the thing. I will say, if your goal is to create something that is going to be able to be is able to be used by a lot of different people, right? Then utilizing something like that campaign book isn't a bad idea, right? Just to see these different ideas that have come together to make these specific things. They don't have to be exact things that you need to follow beat for beat, like she's saying, like they're saying, right? The whole point is to have this as something that you can reference in a lot of different ways. Right, so I don't know, man. Just try it out. Just try it out. That's really all I have to say. Just try it out. See if it works. And honestly, I guess okay. So here's another thing now that I think about the word choice. Okay, if we're talking about making things that would fit for all types of people all the time, saying, like, just think about how she says this.
One GM who's memorized the politics, one GM who skipped the politics in favor of introducing a sexy, romanceable eldritch abomination, and one GM who's forgotten most of the lore and is just running on vibes. The problem with using a setting book as a guideline for your own home game world building is that your goals are different. A book has to go into thousands of hands and work for thousands of tables, everyone from the ultra planners to the agents of chaos who are horny for abominations. It has to
So saying that it can go through a bunch of different people sounds appealing, though. You know? When you're making your own home game, when you're making your own home world and home brew of any type, saying that it could end up basically in anybody's hands, that anybody could play it, is kind of what you, or at least what some people might strive for, right? So that they can play it with anybody they know, right? Or have somebody else play in it, and run the games for them, right? Making it easier for them to run things. So it's kind of a tempting offer at that point as well, when you phrase it like that. So I guess it's just one of those things that you've just got to figure out how much you need it to be that, instead of it just being for your table, right? So just, like, don't get seduced by the idea that you could maybe run this for, like, a con for a bunch of random people, I guess, you know?
To serve near infinite GM styles, but your home game prep only needs to serve you. Plus, Monty says he thinks building out less of your world can actually
She was looking very happy in that post, that's true.
make that world easier to play in.
I find that if you do a lot of prep, you can actually ossify elements of your world and make it more difficult to engage with because you've fixed something in your mind that it has to be this way.
At this point, you
Well, so, okay, so immediately I go, well, so what if I am making my stuff that's pretty concrete, right? And if I do that, and I have these answers, and I've really kind of made sure to put a lot of things, I also have to then have the frame of reference and the state of mind, that's more so the state of mind to also say, well, if it doesn't necessarily work for the type of game that I'm playing, if the tone doesn't fit or all this kind of stuff, am I going to also be fluid enough to change it, right? Or is there a way around it that I can give as an option, right? Because that's just how you DM stuff, right? You have to adapt regardless of what you have, right? And yeah, some things do have to be unwavering for internal consistency. Exactly. Also, I disagree with that notion. The more I prep, the better I can adapt to what the players do. Exactly. That's the thing. I would argue quite easily that the more that you prep, at least for some people, the more that you prep, the better you can be at actually adapting, and the better you can be at using yes and no but, right? Because you can look at the consequences because of what you've prepped and figure out, like I said, ways around the thing that you can suggest, right? It doesn't necessarily make you more rigid. That's a weird way to phrase it, I know. But legitimately, it doesn't, as he said, ossify your way of thinking, okay? So you can have both. You can absolutely have both. So don't I guess get pigeonholed into thinking that if you don't need to prep as much just because you don't want to be as stuck in your ways, I guess, with things. Don't be afraid to say no, I guess, is the ultimate thing, right? Because you shouldn't have to necessarily bend to everything that people want in your game, right? Sounds like you get too attached to these darlings. Maybe. I don't know. I'd say really deep world building would be making whole languages, designing banners for countries, making props, etc. That would be probably, yeah. But, like, it's just one of those things where it's some things, as Dracokraken said, some things have to be completely fixed so that you can have that internal consistency, because you want that internal consistency. It just makes things work better when everything is consistent. Obviously, you have some leeway here and there with magical bullshit. But if the framework is internally consistent, you can at least then have things continue to be satisfying in that way. I always hear yes and no but and think about Hank Hill. Fair.
You might be saying, Ginny, if we aren't supposed to use setting books as a guide, then how are we supposed to know what to prep? And that is a great question, which I am excited to dig into right after today's sponsor.
Oh!
Me. That's right, I'm putting my own ad into my own video.
Oh, shit, okay.
And no one can stop me. Need a friend to dungeon crawl with? Now you can quest with me all year long with the brand new Dungeon Dolls 2026 wall calendar. Wow, it's 13 magical months, including a bonus month for January 2027. Because who doesn't want a little extra adventure? Each month features a dungeon doll ready to play, designed with the amazing artists at Little Giant Studio. Look,
That's cool.
This one even has her own Valiant steed, sold separately. You can get the classic calendar or upgrade to the deluxe bundle for even more fun. A full set of pink glittery dice and a booklet of 4 doll-inspired subclasses for 5e. Or grab the digital calendar so you can bring Dungeon Doll magic to every device you're attuned to. Dungeon Dolls 2026 is available for pre-order right now and ships in December, perfect for holiday surprises or rewarding yourself after a long year of racking up exhaustion levels. It's limited editions.
As if people are using exhaustion. If only. Was not expecting a doll ad. You know, it's a calendar ad because she did her photo shoots and stuff, right?
So once it's sold out, it's gone forever. Don't wait for a long rest to grab yours. Collect the whole party at ginnyd.com/shop. Recommended for ages 8 and up and levels 5 and higher. Use only as directed or recklessly for advantage on your next attack. So if
Nice, very good. Good stuff. I appreciate that you did that. It's good. I hope that this was 4 months ago. I hope you had success with it. You know? That calendar is going out to the internet is a level of bravery beyond me. Mm-hmm. Same. Yeah.
we're not supposed to use setting books as guides for world building, what should we be following? I asked Monty and Kelly, and they mentioned something that you already have right there at your table.
What do I have?
That's right, it's 2 empty cans of Celsius and a half-eaten bag of gummy worms.
Celsius is pretty good. I prefer my liquid death, but Celsius is also pretty good. Prep time never hurt Batman. True. True.
Just kidding, it's your players.
Where do your players come from? Right? What classes are they, and what are the things that your players need to launch from?
But if you have a general idea of the types of gods that are in your setting, you don't need to write down all of the detail. You might even write down 3 or 4 names of gods. The end. Then you find out in session 0 that one of your players is playing a cleric, and they're like, hey, what sort of gods can I connect to? That's when you sit down with the cleric and you're like, okay, I got this idea for these 4 gods. We could make up a whole new one. What are you looking for?
Okay, my player really likes thunder gods. I wasn't thinking about a thunder god, but maybe let your player make up that religion.
Yeah.
My player's playing a wizard. I didn't really think I needed a magical academy, but now I need one. And so if you got 5 players, the 5 things that you should start off with world building are like a couple things that your players can use to anchor themselves in the world.
I actually
So, so I have no issue with utilizing what your players have brought to the table to make stuff in your world. I think that's good. I think that's awesome because then you can make a more personal aspect out of it, and it becomes a lasting aspect that's a part of the world. That's very cool. I also don't see myself doing that as much for major things like a magical academy and stuff like that. And like the gods and stuff. Because that stuff is kind of the outside, like all of the outer stuff, I guess. Like all of the more essentials that I would look for in something like a D&D game or a high fantasy game like this, I guess, that are already done, and then adding to it, because of what the players want, right? So the gods thing is a good example for it, right? If I make a bunch of gods already and use them and then present them to the player, and the player says, none of these really fit. Then it's like, okay, let's see if I can make something. It's either going to be a god, a demigod, some kind of aspect of a god. Like, it could be anything that helps with what they actually want, right? Excuse me. And then with something like the Wizard Academy, I guess, or some sort of magical academy, it's like, well, yeah, that is a thing that's there. I guess my thing would then be more specific, I guess, of like, what is your relationship to it, and we can go into that more so, right? Like, I don't know, man. As somebody who tries to give detail to players so that they can make this informed decision on like what they have available as a character, then it's hard for me to see myself having so much less to give them to be able to pick from, you know? I'd rather, it's just the same as, like I said before, I'd rather give them more options than they need, rather than have very few options in the beginning and have to then work for it more so, I guess, right? As a player, I like to know enough about the setting to be able to make well-informed decisions so my character fits the setting. Yes, exactly. The worst part for me when I make something for a game is not knowing what it is to a degree that I feel like I will not fit in, right? So I would much rather there be options already available. Because I know at least bare bones basics of what the world is like. You know? Which includes those kinds of things like gods and like major establishments and all that kind of stuff. I feel, at least for me, that's bare bones basics for me. So I don't know. Okay, I think this needs to be 2 videos or sections: world building for game and world building for materials/books. Because if you don't want XYZ god to exist in a book, there should be a reason. True. I think we're supposed to ignore the book talk stuff. I think that's the whole reason for this. They made a setting, they put it in the book stuff, but for like actual games, don't worry about that, I guess. I'm not sure. Can my Thunder God be an ascended heavy metal rocker? Yes.
Love this as a kind of world-building hack. If nothing else, just create one element of your world that aligns with each player character. So if you have a rogue who's part of a thieves guild, you build that thieves guild. If you have a character with a noble background, you flesh out that noble house. If you have a warlock whose patron is mysterious and unknowable, you're good. Take the night off. It's basically a ready-made checklist of world-building elements that you can be almost certain will come up in play. You can also flip this on its head to spot things that you probably shouldn't be spending time on. If you're lovingly crafting a thieves guild, but none of your characters are criminals and there's no quest hook pointing at crime, you're almost definitely over-prepping. At most, jot down a name like the Velvet Daggers and move on with your life. If down the line...
I mean, so, again, what if I'm doing that and I'm going to utilize it for potential quests and stuff, right? Like, yeah, none of them's a thief, but that doesn't mean they can't steal. Brother, my favorite character that I ever played was named Gimbal. I've talked about him many a time. He was a bard, but he wasn't a bard. He was a sorcerer. He was a wild magic sorcerer. He was not a bard, but he was a bard by profession. Like, that was his thing. You could be a thief, but not be a thief, you know? So, like, I don't know, man. Maybe they need to interact with them to get a favor so that, like, they need to get dirt on a high noble. So they need to do work for the Thieves Guild in order to then get enough, like, goodwill with them to cash in for that favor. I don't know. Like, why not have it? You know? Like, yeah, sure. they might not ever see it. I don't know. It's one of those things, right? There's both an argument for and an argument against making whatever in your world, I guess, is kind of the main point. But I would say if you really want there to be a Thieves Guild, just make a fucking Thieves Guild. You're fine. Even if the players don't fucking ever touch it. You can at least talk about it and, like, hint to it in the game and see if anybody even picks up with it. Have NPCs that are attached to it. Like, all this kind of stuff. It just gives you more to use. And yeah, maybe you don't need to necessarily make it all in the very beginning. But that doesn't mean you can't make it at all.
Your players loot something extremely...
What if they insult the guild 40 sessions ago and you jot that note down to use later? You wouldn't know if you had not made a guild back then. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. I see no issue with making something that you really, really want to make in your world, you know?
Valuable and extremely illegal, and start asking, so, who buys dragon eggs around here? That's your cue to give that Thieves Guild a little more detail. But until then, the Velvet Daggers shouldn't be more than a napkin note, or the name of your new glam goth bardcore band.
So here's the thing. I don't like the word shouldn't. I really don't like the word shouldn't. I would say doesn't have to be. Not shouldn't. I get what the point of the video is. I do get it. I do understand. Okay? I'm not, like, an idiot. But, like, the word choice, you know? Let's say it doesn't have to be right now. Until then. Right? I don't know. It just immediately makes me go, like, dude, but you can, though. It's okay if they want to, you know? That's the whole thing. That's my whole problem so far.
Short, you only need to build what your players touch. Everything else can stay in the quantum fog until they decide to poke it.
There's this phrase that so many people...
And again, I understand the point. Like, if you don't want to do anything until they have to interact with it, go for it. My initial thought is, what if you're in the beginning 5 minutes and they go and start asking about something that you've never thought of? Okay? I'm fine with the answer is... I'm fine with somebody saying the answer is, I prep a little bit for 5 to 10 minutes so they can just chat for a bit or something, just to make it so that I have a basic idea of what's going on, right? Or the answer can be, I just roll with it. I just make it right there and we just go. Or the answer can be, I don't have that in my world. It's not going to be in my world, right? Like, there are so many different answers that you can use in those situations. And I would say all of them are valid. Okay? But, like, prepping beforehand does help with those to a degree, right? And like I said as well, as long as you have the mindset that you will need to adapt during this game when you're running it, then you should be okay in those situations where you've prepped and you still don't have everything that you might necessarily have needed to think about.
Repeated it, so I can't take any credit for it, but it's like, you only need to be one session ahead of your players.
I love this phrase, one session ahead of your players. That might sound more like a prep tip than a world building tip, but those two things are actually way more intertwined than you might think. I used to think that world building happened right up front, before the game even started, and then prep just meant figuring out what happens in that world from session to session. In my head, it was a clear pipeline. Step 1, invent continent. Step 2, panic. Step 3, stop crying long enough to run a game. But in reality, world building is happening continuously as you play.
We're talking a lot about world building. And in that phrase itself, it implies that you are building an entire world.
I think the map is a really powerful tool just in general for world building. Not necessarily thinking that you need to build the map of the entire world. Like, reduce the scale. Don't do your entire globe, an entire planet. Grab, like, something the size of a single US state. And that would be the largest I would start with in terms of a geographical area.
So go for Texas, which is in itself almost a continent, or California, which in itself is almost enough for a continent. So they did the opposite of what I said, which is start small, go big, instead of go big, go small. But like big as in vague big, and then get more granular after that was what I was saying. So fair enough. Like this is again, this is the thing of I make this little pocket, I make this other little pocket, I make them kiss, I make another little pocket, I make them kiss, I make another little pocket, I make them kiss, and sooner or later we have a whole fucking continent of a polycule. It's crazy, man. But like. Yeah, you absolutely can do this. That's absolutely not a problem. The thing about planning a session ahead, my thing is, a session ahead requires you to look in all directions, right? So like, it's. The problem is without for me at least, okay, we'll continue to focus on me, unfortunately. The problem is for me is if I don't have my overview of my world and the more of the things around it, it's harder for me to go off the cuff, I guess, right? If I don't have the foundation, it's harder for me to improv. Vampire has been a lot easier for me to improv with because my foundation is very, very, it's already been made in a lot of different ways. And I understand how the game is, so I can kind of put things where they need to go pretty easily for me, right? Now, when I made my fantasy world, in order for me to then understand, like, what direction they might go in that is completely different from the direction that I point them in, I need to know which direction is which. I need to know what is going on in this city. I need to know, I guess, more so what is going on around this city rather than necessarily like what is going on shop to shop, if that makes sense. So I need to know more so the structure of the continent and the people and like more of what's going on in general because I've made it all up, right? Because it's my homebrew. So I need to know that in order to then say, oh yeah, you don't want to go with this guy to go north to go and fight the corrupted farmland, to try to get the corruption out of the farmland. That's fine. You can just continue on and go towards the city itself, and just stay in the city for a while, or you can go back this way. We can go down into the valleys between mountains, and just kind of find out what's going on there, or we can go towards the coastline and we can see, what's going on over here with all of these different people, or you could even go down this way towards more of the corrupted lands, the blighted lands, and you might encounter just some things that you've never seen before, and then maybe encounter this culture that you've got only slight knowledge of, or some of you have more knowledge of, or like it's just, it helps with prepping for those next sessions, right? So, I've played many games that started in a tavern only for the party to immediately walk out because players will do what they want. Obvious plot triggers be damned. True. Yes. I don't like to too much retraction. Just make as you go. Traction. Not sure, but I agree with you. If you're saying you just prefer to just make things as you go along in general and not the overarching thing, then sure, yeah, absolutely, that's fair. An empire as a type of polycule is a thought I never had thought before. Fair enough. The Dungeon Dudes campaign went for 7 years. Are they saying they didn't expand or change things as time went on? No. Not what they're saying at all. They're saying that they just went off of what the players were doing, more so. Restriction is a better word. Much restriction. Yes, I get you. I understand. Palpatine might have had an easier time selling the galactic polycule. Yeah, probably. He might have gotten some different clientele, but yeah.
Monty and Kelly advise building the starting area and then not worrying too much about what's outside of it until players start sniffing around. You can give other locations names and maybe even cardinal directions or short descriptors, but you don't really need more than that until you get the idea that your players will want to pay it a visit.
Naming place.
So this is true in a way. Like, this really depends on if you're good at coming up with these things on the fly, is kind of the thing, right? I can do it myself, but I'm not great at it, okay? Our friend Brogan, no, not once, our friend Brogan is really good at it. He's incredible at improv. He will just fucking go, my guy. He just needs a set of dice and a dream. He's ready, you know? I'm more methodical, but as long as I have that foundation, I can kind of think about it for a few more seconds and then go, yeah, okay, let's do it like this, you know? And I run things based off of what the players do, what the players want to do, and what the players are interested in my sandboxes, right? So as long as I have constructed the framework of the sandbox, I'm okay. I can do this, you know? But if you're just saying, hey, go for it, hey, you should just go for it, only have the bare bones basics of a name and a dream, then you better also recommend that this is for people who are, like, way better at improv. How is Brogan? He said he was taking a break from his channel. He's doing good. He's doing really good. Yeah, he's doing good. We're still doing vampire and stuff with him, so you'll still hear from him if you're hanging out on this channel. Whoa. But yeah, no, he's just taking a break from his personal stuff. So, but he's doing good.
And saying like one paragraph about them is more than enough. And you don't have to do that again in your home game. You can literally name the desert. And if your players decide, if they ask, like, hey, what's in that desert? You can be like, well, there was once a group of druids rumored to live there that were like desert druids. And they're like, cool. Mm-hmm. We're not going to go there.
And then if they're like, I want to go meet the desert druids, then you can build it.
Then you worry about who the hell the desert druids are.
Yeah.
There is a good chance that they will never visit the desert, and then you'll be glad you didn't spend a ton of hours creating a whole desert druid society that no one's ever going to meet.
Will I? Will I be glad? What if I'm not glad?
Wanted to make the wider world as boring as possible so my players wouldn't go there, and the focus would be I could put 100% of my energy into Drakkenheim itself, making it the most interesting place. That failed, and when it became apparent that through the course of the campaign, in role-playing NPCs and role-playing interactions and upping the stakes of the conflict, I started dropping hints about what the wider world was, and our audience and our players got fascinated with what was happening, because it's kind of that rule of like, as soon as you say you can't go there, you can't touch that.
Yeah.
It's the Streisand effect immediately, yeah. If you're going to make everything like quote-unquote boring, if you're trying to make it uninteresting, I'm sorry, but that's just going to make people interested. It just is. Why is it that way, and why is where we are the most interesting place? Like, that's not how the world is, I guess, is my point. So, you know, you just got to kind of expect that.
it makes people want to know more about it.
What I love about this is that not only does it reduce the amount of work you have to do and avoid the problem of putting a ton of effort into creating a location that your party never visits or a bit of history that your party never learns, but
okay, so, like, I understand that it's frustrating if people don't visit something that you've spent a lot of time in. I do get that. I do understand, but, like, why? You made it. It's there. You've made a thing. It can be used still, right? Like, you've put in the effort. Sure, it took you a lot of time. They never saw it. They never appreciated it. Oh, no. You know it. You made it. Be proud of it. I don't know. I'm sorry. That just gets me every fucking time that comes up. It's like, oh, I made this thing and no one ever gets to see it. It's like, well, you made it, so you do. And if you want to tell people about it, you know, later on, go for it, you know? Like, oh, I made this whole thing that you guys never visited. And we go, oh, that sucks. Wow, that could have been cool. Oh, well, it didn't really fit with what we were doing. It's like, yeah, it didn't. Anyway. I don't know, man. Just take some pride in what you make, I guess. I don't know. This group sounds like the most uninterested bunch of people. What are they doing if they don't care about the druids? Right, exactly. Let us not go to the wider world. It is a silly place. Exactly. Thank you for that. If the wider world, other than that one route you made, is boring, then give me the option to explore. Then why give me the option to explore? I understand. Yes, exactly. Why are they playing if they don't want to explore? Well, so this is the thing. Last time we did this, we talked about exploration a bit. Exploration happens all the fucking time, right? It happens all the fucking time, no matter what you're doing, okay? If you are absolutely going to be making a wide world that has named places, then yeah, they're probably going to want to go to those places, at least somewhat. You know, if they need to go from A to B to C, they might not give a shit about B, but they might give a shit about C. So they got to go from A to B to C. You know? And you named it B. Reminds me of our first Delta Green game where the first question I asked after the final session was, what did I miss? Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It also allows you to literally shape the world around what your players are into. When I asked my Patreon members what their biggest pain points were when world building, quite a few of them mentioned not knowing how to get players to care about the world they've built. But what if that's backwards? Instead, what if you identify what parts of your world your players care about and then develop those? If you keep the world loose and undefined until the players interact with it, then your players' interests literally sculpt the world. You might think they'll be into your spooky coastal ghost town, the Whispering Docks, but if you drop a line or two about it and nobody bites, no harm, no foul. They're gonna be way more engaged.
Yeah, but but here's the thing. You made the thing called the Whispering Docks, and you put some effort into it, and if they get interested, they fucking go to it. And if they don't, like you said, oh no, oh well, you know, no harm, no foul. If she said they wanted to come back later, I would understand, but she keeps saying they never want to see it. Yeah, that's also true. I'm not exploring. I'm a dark sorcerer, just reading my tome. True. I'm pondering my orb.
When they decide to go visit the Toad Market, because whether they realize it or not, they chose it by showing interest in it. It's collaborative storytelling, and it's also being lazy. The greatest trick a game master ever pulled. Now, as a recovering perfectionist myself, I was not surprised to hear Monty and Kelly talk about perfection as the enemy of world building. A weekly YouTube upload schedule has pretty much cured me of any delusions I might have once had about achieving perfection. At this point, I consider it a win if I make it through with both my eyelashes still on. But it turns out they meant something totally different from what I expected. I assumed they meant don't expect yourself to be perfect, you will make mistakes, and that's okay. Which, yeah, obviously, if perfection were a requirement for being a game master, D&D would not have survived 5.5 editions. But they actually had a completely different angle on this that really changed the way I think about world building.
Especially when it comes to things like cosmology, pantheons, gods, and the history of your world. I think that oftentimes we take the wrong lessons from fantasy in our world building and don't learn enough from the real world. If we look at, the example of world building, Tolkien, who has a very specific pantheon, the world has a very specific creation myth, and it all stems through from that. A lot of the lessons that we sometimes take from that is that that's the way that it has to be. But the real world is filled with myriad pantheons, religions, gods, beliefs.
Yeah, that's true, but they're not real in the real world. And I'm not saying that as like I'm an edgy atheist thing. No, I'm saying in fucking D&D, the gods talk to you and they give you divine power. So, like, creating the pantheons and stuff is kind of important. Even if you don't create a pantheon. Oh, excuse me. If you don't create a pantheon. Sorry, I like choked on my own spit. If you don't create a pantheon and you just use like the forces of nature and chaos and light and dark and all of that kind of stuff as just the things that exist, that's also an important thing to note. Because it's not that God's created everything, it's that like the forces exist. They worship the light. They worship the sun, and it gives them power because they believe in it. Something, right? I don't know. Maybe I jumped the gun here, but like, yeah, the real world is all weird with everything that we've got because we have 37 different things that everybody believes in. So, not everything is kind of set in stone because we don't know. But like in D&D, or in your homebrew campaign, you can make it that way. There's no problem in making it that way. But what I'm saying is, you don't have to. You like get to be the architect, like the grand architect of everything, and you get to know exactly how the world was made, regardless of if there's gods or not. The characters don't necessarily. They don't ever need to. But like, it's a thing that exists. It's a pretty major part of your world, I thought. Felker doesn't have a pantheon because we chased out all the gods for being too much trouble. Exactly. I remember.
And countless creation myths.
Yeah.
And for me, I find that a setting that does not have a single coherent creation myth is more credible to me. A lot of the really prominent examples of world building that the Dungeons and Dragons books give us, the core rule books, are very ordered and highly structured worlds. I always like to say it's super ironic that the Great Wheel has a chaos quarter in it. That chaos is like
It's gonna stay in its
sorted.
place.
And as someone who loves eldritch horror and cosmic horror, I build my worlds based on cosmic chaos. Like, I love the unknowable. I love the fact that mortals especially don't understand everything about their world. And I find that that's a very freeing thing for me world building. Because if the people that inhabit your world don't actually know what really happened 10,000 years ago.
I think this is...
Well, so you can still do that. Like, even if you know what's happened, the people don't know. Like, you can know. Right? Like, again, this is fine if you want to do it as the basis of everything in the past and like your setting's actual history. Like, you can do that. There is no problem there. Do whatever you want with it. What I'm saying though is it's not a problem if you want it to be structured, right? I don't know. It like, you can still have it be structured, but is chaotic to those who don't know. It is literally unknowable to anyone but you. And if somebody does want to dig into it, then they can find out information, right? But that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. It becomes their major quest that they do for their entire character's life, you know, like it could be. Just trying to find what is the actual, like, mythos, the actual creation, the actual reason why the place is the way that it is. And you can do that while still maintaining that the theme of cosmic horror and such. And cosmic chaos, as he put it. I guess Shin was doing that, writing the history as theory instead of fact. Yeah, that's true. Because, like, it's just one of those things. Like, even in my structure, for my world, that is the truth, but is it the entire truth? You know? It's something that no one will know because they weren't there. The gods know. But do they care enough to remember? Or do they think that it's necessary for mortals to know? I don't know. It's an interesting question. I never thought of that.
Such an important thing to remember as a game master. We often feel like we need some kind of omniscient command of our world at all times, just in case a player suddenly asks, so who invented boats? But the truth is, players have no access to a real, reliable authority. Every NPC, every dusty old tome they encounter in the game is potentially and delightfully unreliable. Just like our real-world historians, NPCs are probably just doing their best with whatever rumors survived the years. Who invented boats? I don't know, probably the first guy who got tired of swimming. How should I know? That means we don't actually have to lock in some official universal truth. We can decide later, or never.
What the takeaway of
That's true. I mean, again, not a problem. So just, if you want it to be structured, go for it. Like, it's not going to, like, again, I understand the point is to make things easier on yourself, okay? But, like, also, I would argue that putting in the effort to, like, create your pantheon, to create your world, to actually, like, have this stuff in place is also rewarding in its own right, okay? Not just because the players aren't going to necessarily see it, okay? It's just the fact that you've made something that will be there in case. And it is something that you can appreciate, okay? I don't know. I don't know why you can't be enough for your own stuff, I guess, right? And I know that's not, like, what they're saying. I get that. I do get that. But, like, you are enough for the things that you make, okay? I don't know. I get that you want other people to appreciate it. I do get that. I do get it. It's fine. Pepperidge Farm remembers? True. Sorry to sound mean, but how good is their main plot to make the players not care about 99% of the stuff they find? Well, so they were saying to not, like, go outside of the one specific thing that they had done a lot of effort into. That's kind of what they're talking about, rather than not care about all the stuff. They just had a lot of stuff that they had made for Drakkenheim itself, I guess, and not necessarily everything surrounding it. I'm sure it's fine. I should add more unreliable narrators to my games. You should. Having people not know exactly what the truth is good. My god that I came up with, Tenebrum, is the he's the god of undeath, but he's also the god of community. He's the god of the downtrodden, all that kind of stuff. And depending on who you talk to, he's evil, he's good, he's neutral, he wants undead supremacy, he wants everyone to come together. Like, it depends on who you're talking to, because of what they believe he is. He himself is a very specific thing, but his followers are not always the same. So they're kind of unreliable in themselves, right? But he grants the powers that he does from the worship because that's how it works. And regardless of what is done with it, he doesn't really have that control, necessarily. He can, but he can't really pay as much attention to what is done in his name because of how he is and how it works and what he's having to do, along with all the other gods at this point in the history. So, like, I don't know, man. You know? It's fun. It's cool. Do it. But also, don't be afraid to have that structure, to have things be true. And things that are concrete. Baby.
This for anybody building their own world is that you can actually get your own history wrong at the table. And your players are like, this NPC just told us that the war was won by this side 100 years ago, but we heard from the other PC that it was the other side. I'm like, oh wow, that never happens in the real world. Like the history is so convoluted and messy that like the fact is that you can get your own history so wrong at the table.
It's actually very freeing as a DM when you embrace this idea of like embracing contradiction, embracing the mess, embracing the unknown in your world, because for me, again, it comes back to the real world feels that way. Historians will tell you that we can argue over what happened 100 years ago very, very easily. And yeah, sure, we don't have elves that live 1,000 years in our world, that maybe it would be a little bit simpler. But I do think that there's more lessons to take from the real world than a lot of what we look to in fantasy world.
I agree. I mean, just in general, all of the fantasy stuff kind of came from a real world basis. Again, so you can have this and also know what happened, though, you know? You can have the uncertainty of what is known, and you can have the stuff that is true. So, like, just, I don't know, man. That'll make it feel more alive and more cohesive, I feel. But I don't know. Also, yes, things can be streamlined. Sorry. I didn't read that, but yeah.
And it makes your world feel vast, mysterious, and like ever-growing and weirdly credible. Like
my thing is, it can absolutely do all of those things, but also, like, you can just, like, also know what the answer is, and if they do want to find it, you know, if they do want to find it, you can give them the answer somehow, some way. They just have to work for it, you know. You can't lie about your history if nothing was true to begin with. That is true. Or is it a lie? No, it's true.
It's weird how this idea of doing...
Also, players not caring about side plot doesn't sound like embracing the unknown. I mean, it could, I guess. I don't know. It depends, right? Like, I don't know. With wars, our side one is usually based less on what actually happened in detail and more on what we're defining as winning. Yes, true.
Less work makes your world feel bigger.
I love this idea that a messy, sometimes conflicting world actually feels more real and complex. We can give ourselves permission to have a looser grasp of our world's history and events, not just because it's easier, but because it'll actually make that world more three-dimensional. And you don't have to admit to this either. If your players spot an inconsistency in your lore, you can just nod solemnly and say, yes, fascinating. Clearly the scholars disagree.
And like a lot of people...
Yeah, I mean, that's the DM's #1 move, is just nod along and say, yes, it was always intended to be that way. Like, sure, you know?
don't necessarily like to hear that. They like to imagine that Monty and I have this like grand scale knowledge of all of the secrets of our universe. But most of the secrets of our universe are actually still secrets to us. We just need to figure out what they are.
And that can be true for a home DM too. Your players can believe you have these grand secrets of the universe floating around in your head, even if you don't.
Yeah.
There's another way in which perfection can be a problem.
That's just like a thing that's always been the case for DMing. So I don't know where, like, we're not touching on anything new there, but okay.
For world building. And if you've ever heard Monty talk about world building before, you've probably heard it.
The biggest fantasy is that the players get to affect the world. And once again, in our real lives, we often feel very powerless about the state of the world. And so I think the power fantasy of D&D in particular and role-playing games is that you do get to be the hero who changes the world and affects the world, and in very dramatic and profound ways.
Yeah.
And so I do think that presenting your players with a world of problems that they can solve is really exciting. And I would say a pitfall to run into is sometimes you get building your world and it is built around a world that you would love to live in.
You have this line that I've heard you say a lot about your world. Do you want to say it?
Your world will look better on fire.
Yay.
Yeah.
It's a great line.
Yeah.
What he's talking about is, on a fundamental level, conflict. We all know that a story needs conflict to be compelling. Without it, your campaign is just a very elaborate walking tour with occasional dice rolls. But he's also talking about something bigger here. Not just add a villain or throw in a problem, but
Ah, yes. Writers not knowing their own lore has never affected the quality of the story. Yes. Never, ever, ever. But here's the thing. Here's the direct counter that you would hear, right? The direct counter is, but we're not writing, we're playing D&D. You're not a writer. You're not making a story. You're making a campaign for people to play in. So, if you don't know your lore, it's actually fine, because you can kind of just like make it up as you go, and it'll be fine. Which is it's true to an extent. It's true to a true extent. I couldn't speak before. Anyway, making fun of myself. So it's true to an extent, yes, but at the same time, again, we talk about this foundational stuff that makes it so that it's easier for you to make decisions, right? Easier for you to answer questions, easier for you to play the game when you have a foundation. So, like, I don't know, man. Maybe we need a little bit. Maybe some people need more than others. Okay? And maybe doing the easy way isn't always necessarily the better way. Maybe the easy way is fine for the beginners, but maybe if you want a little bit more of a challenge here and there, you start incorporating more things, trying to make more things, right? I don't know. I would then argue I'm not writing my players' characters, but I am writing the lore. See? Exactly. Yes, agreed. That's exactly how you should say it, right? The lore is important to an extent because it does affect, or at least have the effect of the foundation of the world. What does it look like because of all the lore? What happened to create your world? You know? I forgot that part of the lore because Azathoth rolled over in his sleep. True. Yes. Destroyed.
build a world that actually needs your players. And better yet, a world that your party won't just rescue, but can actually meaningfully change.
Sure. Oftentimes, fantasy stories have this sort of thing where it's almost like about a return to status quo.
Yeah.
And fantasy stories can be very actually quite traditional and conservative in that respect.
Sure.
Where the
I would argue that the better ones are not that way, thankfully. Lord of the Rings is one of them, obviously. But like, I would throw my bat in for all of the Dresden Files fucking books. Nothing becomes status quo at the end. Nothing is status quo, ever, holy shit, everything changes all the time. Not like everything, but like a lot does change. It's just about hopefully making it so that it changes for the better. Which isn't always the case, and it's great for that. I guess I don't read a lot of fantasy. Oh well.
Past is idealized as the grand state, and that we must restore the monarchy, we must restore the order, everything, like, things must go back to the way they were because the villain has thrown it into chaos.
Oh, sure, okay. If you're talking about it in that sense, I guess Lord of the Rings is like that, but, like, Sauron's kind of like an evil prick, so I would rather them have, like, a good man as king, and then, like, the world is kind of at peace. More so. It's not, like, totally at peace, but you know what I mean. Like, there's not, like, an evil fucking demigod that is now, that is in the world, you know? So, I don't know. Like, we take what we can get. Maybe it'll go to shit later on because of, like, the monarchy, but I don't know. I have a little hope for for fucking Middle-earth, okay? I played, Return to Moria. Seems pretty okay in there. In the grand scheme, you know? But they're still, like, evil and stuff, so I don't know.
To be able to create a problem that the world that you've created can't easily solve, and that the players need to be the tipping point for the issues that you're going to tell in your story.
So when we talk about perfection being the enemy of world building, that doesn't just apply to your expectations for yourself and the level of detail and consistency in your lore. It applies to the world itself too. If your players are supposed to be heroes, then you need to create a world that's broken enough to make them matter. If everything's running smoothly, your party is basically just a group of very well-armed tourists. But if the world is on fire, suddenly your players have purpose.
When has that ever not been the case? I'm confused. What are we talking about now? Like, yeah, I want to make it so that there is something that the players need to worry about. But also, hey, it depends, right? Because my D&D game might just be we're all a bunch of shopkeepers keeping a shop. You can do that. The conflict is just the shop stuff. You know? I don't know. Right? One of my favorite lines is, ask not what people did to start a war, ask what people did to keep a war from happening this long. Even peace is not a static position. Exactly. Very good quote. Why don't you want an evil demigod in the world, Alejo? What do you have against evil demigods, Alejo? Hey. Not all evil demigods are the same, alright? I'll give you that, okay? Sauron's just a prick, okay? He's just a prick. Also, every time she says World on Fire, Smash Mouth starts playing in my head. Fair.
You might even say they have a reason to be carrying that sword. So that's the big takeaway. You're not just allowed to do less world building, it actually makes your campaign better. When you stop trying to—
Oh, these are definitive statements. Listen to this definitive fucking statement. I'm sorry, Jenny. You're doing the thing.
armed tourists. But if the world is on fire, suddenly your players have purpose. You might even say they have a reason to be carrying that sword. So that's the big takeaway. You're not just allowed to do less world building, it actually makes your campaign better.
You're not only allowed, it makes your campaign better. It just does. Oh. Where is your qualifier? It can make your campaign better. It can make your campaign better. Please, 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 save it, save it, save it.
When you stop trying to pin down every corner of the map or codify every piece of lore, your world becomes more responsive to the story you and your players are telling.
Oh, it does it? Every time. You're telling me it does every time?
Prep becomes lighter and more flexible. Your
It does!
world becomes more reactive and surprising, and your
Does it?
players get more invested because they can actually see their fingerprints on it.
As if you can't do that when you're not fucking, like, when you do prep a lot? Come on! Just because I prep does not mean that my players are affecting the world right the fuck now. I prepped, okay? I made my shit. Did I make everything? No! But that doesn't mean that they can't change things, because the point is not to not prep. The point is to be flexible. If you're not flexible, people aren't going to be able to change things. If you're very, very, very rigid, you're not going to let them change the world. God. So the characters have no purpose unless the world is on fire? Is she trying to make our fantasy worlds more like modern Earth? Like, it's just, like, I get the point. The point is that your world has to be in conflict enough that the players need to matter. Does it need to start that way? Not necessarily. Hell, they don't need to be in a place that is in constant peril just because it gives the players something to do. Like I said, you could make it so that you're just running a fucking shop. Okay? Go to 3.5, go into DMG2, and look up shop rules, and look at shop encounters. All of that stuff is just, I run a fucking shop. Come on! The more I prep, the more players can have their way and do the world burning themselves. Exactly! I guess we're doing that meme with the guy pointing the gun with the tears in his eyes tonight. Yeah, yeah. You can add purposeful gaps to players to enact change to the greater narrative. Yes, exactly. Again, you can make a lot of absolutes easily, but you do not need to, like, you do not say that, and basically imply that prepping makes it so that it's harder for these things to happen. You don't do that. Don't do that. Going a bit too hard with it will be better. Not always. Yes. Ginny!
Honestly, hearing all this made me want to take another stab at a homebrew world. Or at least a toad market. That sounds sick. If you want to hear more advice from Monty and Kelly, check out the Dungeon Dudes channel. They have tons of great videos for game masters and players, and of course their Drakenheim actual play show is fantastic if you're looking for 200 or so episodes to binge. And don't forget, you can pre-order the Dungeon Dolls 2026 calendar right now. It's 13 months of dungeon crawling glamour, just absolutely drenched in nostalgic 90s toy aesthetic. Treat yourself, treat a friend, treat someone who desperately needs more pink glitter in their life.
You didn't fix it at the end, Ginny. You didn't say that it can. Yeah, 13 months because she included January of next year in it. Oh! Ginny! Why did you say all that? Why did you do it? Oh, no! Look, okay. Again. And I will say this, I will be extremely clear, okay? I will be extremely, extremely fucking clear. With, I don't deal in absolutes, exactly. With advice for D&D, for RPGs, for any TTRPGs in general, okay? We should probably give qualifiers on the fact that this will not always work. Okay? Like, legitimately just, like, you should really try to make it so that people are aware that this is something that might not work for them. Okay? I think that's important. Just like anything that we say, we try to qualify, at least these days. We try to qualify, and I think we did a lot in the past as well, that not everything that we talk about, not everything that we suggest, not everything that we do in our games is going to work for everybody else. And I think that's something that's very important. Yes, your mileage may vary, it goes a long way. Exactly. Exactly. And I know the purpose of this video is to go towards people that find these things very, very tiresome and all of that. But the video itself is called "You're Making World Building Harder Than It Has to Be." You are making world building harder than it has to be. That is everyone. Okay? I'm sorry. You've included everybody. You should also include that not everybody's going to be helped by this. You gotta be careful with your fucking words. Because people are going to assume that this is the way to do things. Okay? I understand that we should treat people like they have a brain. I do understand that, but at the same time, you know who really, really is trying to get into D&D and stuff is young people. Children sometimes too. Okay? And I understand that maybe your videos aren't age-gated. Okay? They shouldn't be. Don't get me wrong. And you shouldn't be making your content just for children. Okay? But I'm not appealing to just children. I'm also appealing to people that take your word and they just run with it because you said the thing. Okay? Should you always appeal to those people? No. But it's just one of those things that just as a sensible precaution, you should just say, maybe, I mean, you can do as you want, but it might not work. Okay? You might find a better way somehow doing it a different way. Okay? And again, it's not like people are going to go after her because, oh, I tried this and it never actually worked for me. You know, oh, I hate you, Ginny D. No, there's none of that. Absolutely not. I don't think so, at least. I don't, maybe. But, like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I appreciate it when people understand that the internet is kind of full of a lot of people. And, like, there are going to be a lot of people that do absolutely take everything somebody says and says, yeah, I'm just going to do exactly what they say because they're on the internet and they have a lot of, like, influence, quote unquote, right? Anyway, that's my TED Talk. To the Alejo special and end with it with a, but I'm not your dad. True, exactly. Yes. You don't have to listen to me at all because I'm not your dad. I can't tell you what to do. Okay? I don't need to be your dad. I'm just giving you advice, all right? I'm not your dad. Don't listen to me if you don't want to, okay? If we do this show long enough, I just had this like thought, like I had a dad once, me too. I just had this thought of if we do this show long enough and like young enough people do actually come to the show later on, I could become old enough to be there. I could be old no, that's not true right now. I could become old enough to be their dad. Actually, technically, I could be old enough as well now. But if they were my kid and they were watching this content right now, I'd be very disappointed in them. But anyway, that's my brain. Anyway, okay, let's move on to the next video. So, I had another one in the chamber. This one is called... Oh god, I am old enough to be their dad. Ugh. If you're old enough to be the dad of a 13-year-old right now, you're in a bad spot, I guess. You'll be old enough to be anyone's dad once we invent time travel. Oh god, I hope not. Okay, anyway, okay. So, this video, I am cries. I know, I'm sorry. Okay, so this video is brought to us by Corkboards and Curiosities, okay? This is called How to Craft an Extremely Immersive World, D&D / TTRPG. Oh. Just want another 20 years, don't rush it, save your sanity. So, yeah, so... Here we go. This one is a shorter video, but I wanted to see some extremely immersive world tips. That's exciting. Shall we? Here we go.
What does immersion mean to you? Because when I say immersion, I think everyone gets the idea, but if I dig a little deeper, it seems we all have a different definition for it in our TTRPG games.
True, actually. My definition of immersion is that I feel like I am playing the character, but in such a way that the character themselves is like the one that would be making these decisions, that I'm basing everything that I'm doing off of the ideas and the environment that the character is in, rather than me, myself, necessarily thinking about the world outside, right? There's a level of immersion that I have, regardless of the facts of what I'm doing, and I'm not really... I don't even see when I'm pulled out of the game to look at it in a metagame kind of perspective. There are certain amounts of that don't break that immersion for me. So, yeah, I mean... It just depends on what is going on, right? Why does this look like a tape from the 80s? Probably because that's the aesthetic. D&D was more popular in the 80s. My definition, or not more popular, but, you know, it rose in popularity in the 80s. My definition of immersion is when an object is lowered into a separate substance. Fair. Yes.
For some, it means being wholeheartedly in character, or forgetting entirely about our base reality, experiencing real stress, fear, and joy.
Jesus Christ, we're using fucking Stranger Things footage. Oh, Jesus Christ, stop.
From stakes that themselves are purely fictional. Others say the magic is in the description or in playing music during a game. I even heard some say that when they play a TTRPG game, they can actually picture the environment in their mind. They imagine the faces of NPCs, see the attacks play out as they happen. They can visualize everything as if they could almost touch.
Jesus, you're using fucking footage from... Oh, God. Oh, God. Please stop.
It. And when I'm a game master, I want to be able to curate that kind of experience for my players. I want them to feel so perfectly immersed in the story that everything else just melts away. And then I thought about Stranger Things, and it completely changed how I think about immersion in a TTRPG game.
Oh, no! Oh, no! Oh, God! Stranger Things has not been good since season 1. I will take no comments. There are moments. Okay, excuse me. Let me amend. Stranger Things has not been good since season 1. There have been specific moments at specific times in other seasons. But Stranger Things is not a good series. It is also not a good D&D series. The writers themselves even admitted they had no fucking idea what D&D was, and you can also know that from the very beginning when they had to roll a 13 to hit with a fireball. Okay? All right. Season 5 is one of the worst things in the history of television.
Which I can only describe as longing for a world you've never actually known.
Oh, we're not home anymore, are we?
No. I think maybe I got immersed a little bit too hard.
So immersed you landed us in the upside down?
Yeah. Well, you know, now that we're stuck here, might as well try to reverse engineer it and see how we got here. Turns out there are different types of immersion. There's even been some attempts at categorizing them. I stumbled upon a table by Mata Haggis Burrage suggesting 4 different types of immersion in video gaming, but they also apply to TTRPG. There is systems immersion where the processes and mechanics of a game flow so well without friction that the meta stops being a source of distraction, which is probably why sometimes we're advised to make a ruling on the spot as opposed to breaking the flow of the game to go look up a rule. There's spatial immersion.
Okay. Oh god, I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted by the clips and stuff, which is really annoying to me. I'm trying to focus on the actual like video and the content in the video. But it's harder to do. I wanted to comment on the like okay, so we're getting skits, which is fun. Skits can be fun. I don't mind that. We're just in a very I'm glad that you enjoyed Stranger Things to the degree that you did to have it affect and make your games better, is what I will say. Okay. I'm glad that you can take that away from it. I hope that you can continue to take that away from it, regardless of what I say about its quality. Okay. Remember what I said about writers not knowing their own lore? Yes, I do, because they ooh ha hoo ha hoo. I can speak so much about that stuff, but okay. Anyway, yeah, sure, okay. So we're going through different things that apply to video games, but they also apply to TTRPGs. Mechanics being seamless is harder to do as something that is the TTRPG, because the rolling of the dice and everything is something that will inherently kind of take you out of the game, because you do have to kind of add things up, understand, like look at character sheets, look at your spells, all that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, I mean, if that doesn't bother you, like it doesn't bother me, then you can still stay immersed. To me, the entire show was just a D&D campaign, and it was all just the imagination of an unreliable narrator dungeon master. If that's how you look at it, that's fine. It has nothing like really to do with D&D other than the aesthetic. So I didn't care about the D&D stuff. I more so paid attention to all the characters and everything, and they got worse as things went on. Like all of them kind of did, except for what is it? What is his name? Shit. Dustin kind of a little bit here and there later on, but like Dustin was pretty solid straight throughout. And then fuck, why can't I remember his name? It's the guy with who does the baseball bat all the time. Him, that the writers fucking hate, but he's like one of the best characters in the show because he rides or dies for like everybody, and he's such a nice guy. Like he's actually like a genuinely like okay guy. Why can't I remember his name? Anyway, him. They're like the two characters. That's it. Anyway. 80s nostalgia crap is a big turnoff for me. That's all I heard about when Stranger Things first came out, and I was like, I don't fucking care. That's fair. I didn't care about any of that. I just cared about the show. Watched the first season, went, ooh, very good. We don't need a second season. Aiden can attest to this. We actually talked about this not that long ago. I went, ooh, we don't need more than this. I think we're good. And then we got more, and I went, Anyway.
Immersion, which relates to the sensory experience of being physically in that other environment. Things like ambience, sounds, lighting, even smells can impact that feeling. Then narrative or sequential immersion is the pull that comes from I need to know what happens next. And finally, there's emphatic or social immersion, the goal of which is to build emotional involvement and connection to that world and what's in it. And of course, these types overlap and feed into each other constantly.
Alright, so which one got us trapped here?
Actually, in our case, I think there might be something else at play here.
Another force.
I absolutely wanted Stranger Things to be an anthology. Absolutely, I did, yes. That would have been so much better. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Netflix ruined it by making the creators have to wait 3 seasons between seasons 3 and 4, and the same from 4 to 5, and the actors aged out of their roles. Yeah, but even so, it was fucked from 2, so...
These categories are a great framework. They're delivery mechanisms.
The problem is the problem is not that Netflix made it take longer. The problem is that with that time the writers did nothing.
They explain the scaffolding or what channels immersion flows through. And by doing so, they give us actionable levers to pull. If I want to increase the sensory immersion of my players, I can play around with lighting and ambient sounds. But they point us to the tools, not so much the sensation. And depending on how we use these tools, they can create completely different flavors of immersion. Say, if those categories are the shape of the immersion, what is its color? How does that immersion manifest? I was a bit surprised by how my own sense of immersion manifested in Stranger Things. I don't easily get immersed into TV, movies, or books. I actually naturally distance myself a lot from what I'm watching. I'm one of those heartless monsters who didn't cry at that scene from The Lion King. Fear.
Oh, okay. 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 Oh, what a thing to... Okay.
You sometimes cry when you listen to music, though.
Music is different, it speaks to my soul. But with Stranger Things, that distance was gone. And most importantly, it was a very particular color of immersion, which I can only describe as longing for a world you've never actually known. I fell into the world of Hawkins so deep that it was hard prying myself out of it. The setting seemed familiar in a way I grew very attached to, and when the season ends, I was longing to get back. Like there was an itch in my brain that only Stranger Things could scratch, which I had felt before in TTRPG. It's actually the symptom that I consider a pretty big sign that I'm getting immersed and sucked into a campaign. When the game ends and there's this lingering pull of I can't wait to be part of that world again. And yeah, my therapist has a field day with my pull. But questions about my weird psyche aside, this is an experience I want to curate for my players, to make them miss a world that never actually existed. It's
Oh, God. Okay. I'm sorry. I need a second. We're just... Okay. All right. Well, what is this about again? Becoming immersed in your TTRPG. Like, again, I want us to get to that. I'm just like, okay, all right, let's go. Come on. Woo. Do you need to go get alcohol? I am one of those unfortunates who has never drank a drop of alcohol in their life, and I don't ever intend to. So I'm just gonna continue drinking my energy drink and waiting until we get to the point where we're actually talking about TTRPGs again.
It's a volatile and slippery color of immersion to capture, but I think not an impossible one. So looking at Stranger Things as a case study, how can a game master generate that same flavor of immersion and emotional pull for their campaign?
Turn on the magic of...
What are we doing? What? What? Oh, fuck. Okay. I bet this video is making alcohol tempting. There have been few times in my life where it has actually been very tempting. This isn't not one of them. It's just I'm unsure what's going on. You might need shrooms for this one. Yeah. That would be sick. 80s, Alejo. The 80s. Right, true. Who cares about Light Bright? Light Bright is still a thing. Hold on. Light Bright section. I'm pretty sure Light Bright is still being made, right? Yeah, it totally is. What the fuck? Okay, hold on. Sidebar. What is all this? What is this? World's smallest Light Bright? Light Bright Touch Basic Fun LED Light Up Drawing Board? Oh yeah, there you go. That's the Light Bright. Yeah, you can probably buy it on Amazon if you want. Yeah, there you go. You get the classic and everything. It's a retro toy. There's a website? Oh my god. Yeah, this thing's going strong, dude. People liked Light Bright, you know? My roommate just went from the other room, just yelled, "What the fuck?" to the Light Bright. It interrupted her miniature painting. That's fucking awesome. I'm so sorry. How does Light Bright fit into anything we're talking about? Oh, we're about to fucking know. Here's Susie. Here we go. I'm going insane.
Are you serious right now?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the magic of Light Bright. The magic of a setting isn't in its big, spectacular elements. It's in the details. In Stranger Things, mundane objects are filled with magic. Fairy lights or toys like the Light Bright are channels of communication between Hawkins and the Upside Down. Popular music played into a Walkman becomes a shield against monsters. The dungeons...
Dude, okay, alright. Oh, yes. Sorry, you're just reminding me of things that I do not need to be reminded about. It's not really anything to do with what you're saying. This whole video is pausing my miniature painting.
and Dragons books are treated like prophetic texts that the kids keep consulting to try and make sense of the supernatural. Yeah. They give the otherworldly names from their games. Demogorgon, Mindflayer, Vecna, these little...
Yeah, they did fucking... it's because the showrunners had no idea what D&D was, and so they just went, oh, what sounds good? Oh, that sounds good. Let's fucking go. Whatever.
Details are not showstoppers, they're the small things that make world building endearing. They highlight the differences between that world and ours and are irresistibly immersive. Because in that world, when we interact with the ordinary, it's special and magical. The mundane suddenly carries weight, meaning, wonder. And isn't that aspect what we actually long for?
What is going on? What? Yes, okay. So interacting with everyday objects is what we're like, and having that be magical is what we're going for? What are we talking about? What? Also, stop with the Light Bright commercial.
Light Bright, turn on the magic of shining light. Light Bright from Milton Bradley.
So in our TTRPG games, how can we infuse wonder into the little things? The first level is making magic show up in less flashy, more intimate ways. Magic items don't have to be adventure-coded objects like weapons, staffs, and scrolls. A little bit of magic can be held in rolling pins, sewing needles, or children's toys. You don't even necessarily need to make objects literally magical for their meaningfulness to carry magic. Legends and customs bring their own sense of whimsy. Maybe the inhabitants of a town always check the tea leaves left inside a cup because they believe that the drinker's true nature is revealed in the patterns.
Okay, yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay, here is something. Light Bright music is very immersion breaking true. Okay, finally something. Okay, so what she's gone over now is the fact that you can make habitual, kind of ritualized things that are mundane, really, or somewhat magical, into things that are a part of your world. Like she's saying with the tea leaves and stuff, like she's saying with certain objects that can be for things that are viewed as sacred because they were used in the past by a figure of importance, right? You make some history and then make it so that people, let's go with like, we can even use like a real life example, okay? And see where we're going here, right? with the story in the Bible, okay? I know a couple of things. With the story in the Bible of David and Goliath, okay? David uses the sling, smacks Goliath in the head with a stone, okay? And God says, hey, you're fucking dead because of that stone, all right? So, what if, because of that story in our real world, the sling became a sacred weapon, right? It became a weapon of those who are chosen by God, okay? Do something like that in your D&D world where people utilize this certain weapon. Hell, they just throw stones. The common people just throw stones because it was used at one point, it was imbued with power, and they throw stones at their enemies because it could kill them. Because it's a symbol that has kind of been made by that kind of stuff, right? People travel between towns. They leave an offering on the roadside for the god of travel, just to give them good fortune as they're traveling. It's just a small shrine that's near every major road, and people just leave things there to bless their journey. The blessing of the hearth, that was like a thing, I think, of you honored the spirit of the hearth and you gave an offering to it, so that your house was welcoming and warm, you know? Just all these kinds of little things that can add this like dimension to people and culture because of history that you've made for your world. Finally, something to actually like dig into. Thank you. What time code are we at? Halfway through the video? Hell yeah. Are we going to see a Slinky ad next? God, I hope not. I'm betting most people who tried watching the video didn't make it this far into it. Maybe. I don't know. Is this the end of Evangelion? Where am I? I don't know.
Ordinary things can also carry symbolic meaning. Perhaps people tie red ribbons, a symbol of resistance, to lampposts in the night as an act of defiance.
Sure.
Or secret messages can be hidden in the way that clothing is arranged on a laundry drying rack. Like
Wearing of bangles on the arm, being part of thieves' cant. This was a thing way back that we did with I think it was Monarch Factory. It was the creator who made that as one of the things that they did with Thieves' Cant, like making it their own thing, using hobo symbols. That's a thing that I used because it's like a real world thing that people can understand, like all that kind of stuff, right? The ocean's tithe is a trope in many stories. It hopes to appease the seas because they are so treacherous. Yes, exactly. She would do Rainbow Bright next. Oh, geez, yeah. But, like, yeah, these little things that go around that are not necessarily a magic item or magical in general, they're just tradition.
a blue towel on the left side.
I'm gripping onto this very hard because it's the one rock within this sea of craziness.
Point in the direction of the safe house. The magic of everyday things can also be in its emotional meaning. How the smell of baked goods open flashback scenes where a player describes their character's memories associated to it. Magic does.
Why? I mean, you could, but I wouldn't. I would only do that if my player was like, yeah, can I actually like can I go into this? In which case I would go, yeah, sure, go for it. But like, it's not something that other people can see, so unless you're like actually actively sharing it, like as a story to, like, that would be fine. It's not necessarily a flashback at that point, it's just like they're telling other people about their backstory, you know? Like, that becomes something that's a part of their backstory. That's part of their personal lore, right? So, backstory in general. But sure.
Doesn't come from spectacle, but from meaning. It's in the small things that the world has chosen to consider significant. And maybe it's those small things that give the players
roll to disassociate.
something to hold on to, and to remember your world by outside a session when they do their own laundry, and think about the next time they'll get to dive into this other world full of whimsy.
Has this ever happened to you? Your in-laws are coming over in an hour, and they're going to expect the house to be spotless. And once again, a gelatinous cube breaks into your living room, shedding corrosive goo all over the rug you just had steam cleaned.
Okay, I like this. I like this more. Make your own commercials. Yes, this is good. This is a good, fun thing.
We've all been there.
Nope, never had a gelatinous cube trash my place. Can't relate. But the panic and overwhelm? Yeah, I've had my encounters with it on a daily basis. Anyways, in a TTRPG, if you want your players to connect with a world that's unfamiliar to them, you're gonna have to build a bridge. So how do we build a bridge? I didn't grow up in the 80s or in America.
So, I was just kind of slack-jawed there for a second because she ruined her own, like, commercial bit. She, like, immediately went, no, I've never... Okay. You didn't, like, go... Like, I understand you were going for, like, the panic and stuff, but you just, you sandbagged your own bit. Like, you could have gone, like, oh, yeah, every fucking day. Especially the panic and the... Like, I don't know, man. It's just, it would have been funny. Okay, sure.
For that matter. I don't have any meaningful attachment to rotary phones, leg warmers, Rubik's Cubes, or scrunchies. With all those references to pop culture and 80s nostalgia, I would expect that the show caters to a particular audience. And yet, it seems that the great majority of viewers are millennials. Because Stranger Things isn't really set in the 80s, it's a bunch of universally human narratives playing dress up with neon leggings and shoulder pads. That's the trick for...
No, it's, like, super in the 80s, though. Like, that's like, one of the things because... they wanted it to appeal to people who have nostalgia for it as well as grow that nostalgia for it. Like, I don't know. Yeah, the millennials. So, I'm technically a millennial, and the 80s was before my time. But like, it was one of those things that people fantasized about because the 80s. Like, it was just the aesthetic and everything. I don't know. It's been a thing since I was a kid. Being a millennial is, like, the perfect audience for that. What are you talking about? I think I'm a millennial. Am I a millennial? I'm pretty sure. 95? Pretty sure I'm a millennial. Hold on. Research. Yeah. Person born 80s to late 90s. Literally, a person born... between the early 1980s and the late 1990s is a millennial. That's literally... What? Wait, what the fuck? Wait, no. That means the people who were born in the 80s. Also, yeah. What? It was a time where they were a kid. So of course they were the audience. Are you okay? Wait, what the fuck? I thought it was later than that a millennial was. I seriously did. I didn't think it was early 80s. I thought it was like near 90s, like early 90s, like right 89 to 90s, and then to... That's crazy. Okay, I don't understand anything about anything. I like Turtles too.
For any work of fiction that makes unfamiliar worlds familiar. It taps into universal experiences we can all recognize.
It also taps into the 80s, which, as we just now know, literally, I don't know, fucking every single person who... I'm sorry, I'm just going to go off on this every time now. Like, yeah, it was millennials. I'm sorry. Generational stuff is weird, yes. I love how she is so into a snapshot of 80s Indiana. Meanwhile, me, who grew up in Indiana, and my family, who lived in the 80s Indiana, have no attachment to this show. Well, yeah, because they also didn't show the 80s Indiana at all, because it wasn't. It's like the 80s fucking California, you know? Nobody has a gun. Can we just talk about that real quick? Nobody in Indiana, aside from the sheriff, has a gun that they use. It's the Midwest. Can we just like for like a second, like think about that for like a second? Anyway.
Movies of The Last Airbender are prime examples. But on top of that, Stranger Things is
What did you just say about The Last Airbender? What did that come up for?
It taps into universal experiences we can all recognize. Ghibli movies of The Last Airbender are prime examples.
Oh, okay. Studio Ghibli or the Last Okay, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Okay, I understand. Yeah, I just saw a guy open carrying in Walmart 2 days ago. Yeah, I know. Indiana is just California, according to California. Yeah, exactly.
But on top of that, Stranger Things is packed with cliches, and that's a good thing.
You are a cliche, you do realize that.
You are a cliche.
Actually, everyone is a cliche, Steve Harrington.
Steve Harrington, one of the best characters in the show. Sorry. Okay. The writers fucking hate him, but he thrives despite them. Anyway. Yeah, 80s appeals so much because it was the last decade before the internet. That's probably true.
Hawkins is populated by caricatures. The high school popularity contest, the bullies' recycled insults, the bored housewife, or my personal favorite, that one classic line, "This is Hawkins, nothing ever happens in Hawkins." Tropes sometimes get a bad rep in
Okay. Okay.
movies and books as overused cliché, but in TTRPG they are insanely valuable tools.
Yeah, this is true. Just because something is a trope doesn't mean you shouldn't use it. That's just in general. We've always said this. It is a trope because it is well known and is reliable. It is a cliche if it is something that is expected and not necessarily a good thing. Trope does not mean cliche.
Tropes are the language of the gaming table. We don't have the luxury that cinema or literature has in visuals showing exactly what we mean or long descriptions, so tropes communicate complex information to our players in just a few words, without breaking the flow of pacing. It taps into a shared database of storytelling patterns and motifs that we all know. Tropes are fundamentally bridges. It might not be surprising that Kids on Bikes, a TTRPG inspired by Stranger Things, decided to use tropes as the starting point for player culture options. The culture
Kids on Bikes was influenced and is apparently a pretty good one, so good for them. I'm glad that Stranger Things created something good. I'd rather have the internet at least in some form. Yeah, same. 90s was relatively internet free. It was there, but not too influential. Everybody, I mean, to be fair, because I was 95, I was born in 95, so I got later on, but like, yeah, it was more influential as the 90s went on, for sure. Because everybody and their mom had a fucking Neopets account, so, you know.
options are things like the funny sidekick, the loner weirdo, the overprotective parent, or the wannabe. When you communicate with your players using them, you establish familiarity. They make the world feel accessible and recognizable, and when you layer those tropes with universal human emotions, guilt, loneliness, coming of age, first crushes, you make the tropes resonate with the players. So in your TTRPG game, what tropes can you...
So it can happen. Doesn't always necessarily, but it can help with this, yes.
You use to establish familiarity. It'll be a whole lot easier for your players to make the jump from the real world to this one. So great, you've created a bridge for your players, but where does that...
Okay, so the tropes are specifically there to make a bridge from our real life into this fantasy world. Whatever it may be, doesn't need to be a D&D world or anything. I would just say that familiarity with just things in general can help with that. But also, I don't believe that tropes are necessary for that either. I don't know. I feel like we as people are able to just kind of recognize storytelling more so than tropes. And recognize the importance of heroes and evil. Good and evil, I suppose. Because that is a classic, like, storytelling device. So I mean, tropes can help with that, I guess, but, I'll take Neopets over Facebook. Yes, same. Absolutely. I deleted my Facebook a long time ago. Good times.
That bridge lead? What does that world even look like? When researching that idea of longing for another world, I found a whole bunch of words. Nostalgia, anemoia, agioptasia, hireth, escapism, soda, thurnwe. Some of these words are about missing a world we once knew, or even remembering it as better than it was. Others speak more of wanderlust. But regardless of what that world is, or whether we've actually experienced it before, when we try to picture it, it's not the events that come to mind. It's something a lot more elusive. An atmosphere, a mood, some intangible feeling that's hard to actually pin down. It's
Oh, I guess sometimes, yeah. But like the events create the nostalgia, I guess. But like I'm more nostalgic for the events of my life rather than like the specific time they took place. I don't know. Maybe. I guess.
abstract and slippery, but it doesn't come out of nowhere. It's emerging from a combination of symbols, objects, colors, textures. But if you approach world building a certain way, maybe you can orchestrate that atmosphere instead of just hoping it happens somehow by accident. I used to teach applied arts for high school, which kind of equates to design, and it had me think, what happens if we use the same practices as interior designers or graphic designers, but for world building? One of our classes was called Démarche Créative, the methodology of the creative process. It often implies creating a body of references, mood boards, a set of elements, textures, a palette that guides the project's visual identity. Now I often start planning for a TTRPG adventure the same way, before I even get into writing the plot. I gather up a little body of aesthetic elements that will make up the vibe of an adventure. These repeated...
Am I crazy or is the music too much? Like, is it kind of just like on the verge of being too loud for anybody else? Like, it's just kind of been bugging me this whole time that like the music is a little too loud. Is that just me? I don't know. MySpace was better than Facebook. That's true. I wish it took off more so.
Elements become cues that players start associating with your world, and eventually form connections to. Walkie-talkies, cassette tapes, and shady government people are a constant in Stranger Things, but the show also seems to have a different body of references for each season. Season 3 is a classic 80s suburban summer with something horrible hiding and lurking just below the mall, the pop music, the ice cream, and the swimming pool. It's giving stranger danger, missing kids' photos on milk cartons. Meanwhile, Season 4 felt very gothic horror to me, with the Chiral house coded like a haunted manor, a literal satanic panic witch hunt, or visits to the Penhurst mental hospital, and music that gets more orchestral. So maybe give a try to approaching your world building like a designer, and create some kind of mood board or list of elements. If you try it, here's a few prompts I like to consider.
What's the dominant colors and textures?
Warm fireplace and aged wood are a very different vibe from Industrial Revolution steel and black smoke.
This one I can't speak on much because, yeah, it's something that might help somebody. I don't know. Make a mood board, potentially. I know, I used to know people who made mood boards for their characters, and that helped them kind of figure out, like, what their character was like, what they looked like, what they dressed like, all this kind of stuff about them. So, like, I'm sure it could help with, this kind of thing. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Like, I don't know. Do it, I guess. The whole video is stimulus distractions? True. Actually true. I'm trying really hard to, like, pay attention to it, but part of me is like, I just want to turn this off. And that's unfortunate. But then again, I'm not the target for this, I guess. I don't know. Considering I hate background music and talking head videos, the only answer is yes. That's fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine to have that. It's just, this is way too distracting. I don't know why. It's just slightly too loud. It's not like overpowering. I can hear her the whole time, but like, I don't know. It just needs to be down like a few decibels, please. It just makes me go like, I notice it too much, you know? And it seems like more of a focus than it needs to be. Anyway. When I think of the past, mostly the bad stuff comes up: wars, hate against marginalized groups being fine, etc. Not what was on TV. That's why nostalgia hooks don't work on me. Sure, that's fine.
What are some key locations and do they have particular architecture? What patterns tend to show up?
Maybe it's street painters on every cobblestone street and extravagant 19th century hats with feathers.
What themes are important?
Tradition versus progress maybe, or the struggle against oppression and surveillance. Once you've created this list or board, keep coming back to it. What makes a world feel tangible is how those aesthetic elements come together to give a place and time its distinct and reliable identity. And these motifs also are the cues that help players transition back into the world. And I think now is the time to wrap this up and try to find our way home. So on this note, have a good evening, and may you always find your path navigating those dreamscapes of your own making.
Oh, okay. Okay. So this might just be me, but like I feel like I didn't like that video flew the fuck by. But not in like a good way. It just kind of went, right? And to be fair, half of that video was just talking about Stranger Things, which I'm just like, okay, cool, whatever. I just don't know. I can't. I just don't know. I feel like oh god. Okay. I can't. I blame my autistic audio sensitivity. Fair enough. I didn't learn anything from that video. I just vented about stuff. Like, I was able to really grasp that one concept. That one concept of, like, having very much, not necessarily religious, but traditions, as well as just things that are not necessarily magical, but important, you know? Based off of stories, history, whatever, like, to make it so that things seem like they matter in the world based off of what has happened before, right? That helps with the immersion, that helps with solidifying the fact that the history did happen, that it did have an impact, that the world itself is something, that came about because of the history, right? But, like, that's all I've got. That, and this person really loved Stranger Things, which I cannot relate to at all. So I don't know. I got nothing. Like, I'm trying to have an insight, but it's only just to world build out your world. Yeah. I couldn't comprehend the true form of Gygas's attack. Like, I don't mean to be like dismissive of the video. There was the one thing in there, but like my brain is now just going to Light Bright and fucking gelatinous cubes and the music and Stranger Things. That's all it is. Like, she wasn't talking that fast, but like it felt like she was talking so fast. I don't know. Like, I understood what she was saying mostly, but again, the music was distracting me so much. And like, not to the 4:3 aspect ratio thing is fine. The using the colors and stuff and the TV and all that stuff, that's fine too. But like, I couldn't pay attention. My God, I just don't know. Am I old? Am I getting old? I can't. The colors and all that, they just took me out of it, man. There's too many colors. It was so loud. That's not being old. That's just getting overstimulated. That's all it is. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a lot. It's just a lot, and I really don't know. Fucking Light Bright, god damn it, true. The Light Bright really killed this video for me more than the music. The Light Bright was crazy. That was the weirdest. That was the weirdest fucking transition. I know why it happened, but it didn't need to happen, you know? Like, we didn't need the Light Bright commercial. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's nice when you have those kinds of commercial breaks where they play an old commercial, okay? In a lot of videos. But, like, in this one, it was very jarring. It was incredibly jarring. So I just don't know. Ask again when you're 40. Fair enough. All right. This might be the best example I've seen of communication requires both parties. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really, it wasn't, the video itself was not bad. I just would never watch that video again. I don't know. It's a combination of personal reasons, I think, and the lack of anything that's really, like, worthwhile in insight, I guess. Aside from one point. And again, like, it was, and I can even show it here. It was not until here where we got the Light Bright stuff that we were talking about actual, like, traditions and stuff. It was here in the middle. All of this. Who cares about the types of immersion? I'm sorry. You didn't really, like, I don't know. It kind of helped. The colors of immersion, I'm not sure I even remember what that was about. Longing for Another World with the nostalgia and all of those other words didn't really, like, help anything. You just told me that they exist, really. And that's what you want to kind of make people feel. And then we started getting into Light Bright, and then you talked about how in Stranger Things, all of the Hawkins stuff seems magical when it's all mundane, like the fairy lights and stuff, because of the fact that it was actually connected magically to the Upside Down and all that shit, right? And then we got into an actual example for a TTRPG. And that's where I was actually, like, the most engaged. And then, this section is called Fantasy is Unrelatable with the gelatinous cube, which I then go, what the fuck? And then it was about building bridges, which is using tropes to make it so that people understand the game, which I'm like, I don't know about that, man. Sure, yeah, okay. This is the power of cliches, but I thought it was the power of tropes. And then the idea of another world, which I'm already forgetting, is using mood boards and all of that kind of stuff. Am I crazy? I don't remember. Okay. All right. That's enough. My brain hurts. She showed those title cards, and then they were gone with no real info. Yeah, as far as I know, I don't know. That's what she was talking about. I don't know. I grasped one point. I'm sorry. Maybe that's just on me. Maybe that's on the... I don't know. But there was something. There was one thing. Okay. Oh, my eyes feel weird. All right. Let's be done with that and with the show for tonight, everybody. Thank you. I'm going to go into reading comments and such. In a second here. So thank you to those of you who were around for this episode so far. If you're gonna be leaving for the comments and all that, hey, no worries. Consider, if you're new, subscribing. Anyway. Alright. Let's go to comments. Have a good evening as well. Full Metal Dragon, I appreciate you. Alejo, wake up. It's been 10 years. It's not your fault. Dude. You don't understand how good it is to hear that. I thought it was my fault this whole time. Alright. Okay. So. First off, it was in fact Full Metal Dragon. Oh, hey! Whoa! Full Metal Dragon left a comment on the last episode when we were talking about storytelling over exploration bad. Ooh, remember that? Full Metal Dragon says, He brings up the Dragonlance modules as the catalyst for change because these modules were specifically written to mimic the playthrough, the novels, mimic and play through the novels exactly as they were written. Back in the 80s, this did have a huge change on how a lot of D&D players approached the game. It split the perception between fans for those who wanted long-form story campaigns and those who just wanted to adventure their hex crawls and, in their mind, explore the world. In the 90s, TSR put out setting after setting, going for the campaigner player, and the older grognards that preferred the older way of play felt like they were forgotten. It was the first edition War 2. Ever since 2005, when the first OSR games came out, they had focused hard on the old-school AD&D and BECMI style of gaming, which were very exploration-focused, and we have gotten like 5 bajillion clones of those original games, and they really do not like AD&D 2E because of this rather ludicrous notion that the edition focused on story campaigns. They hate 3E and 4E because they are too video gamey, and 5E because 5E has no rules for exploration, and it feels more like more superheroic to them. Let's face it, a lot of these grognards have their nostalgia obsession so far up their butts that they only see the world through their brown-stained nostalgia brains, and they can't see any other another way of playing these games. Well put. I agree. Yeah. No, that makes a lot more sense then. If Dragonlance was that way, that he would be bringing that up. I had no idea about that at the time. And it makes sense that TSR doing that would also make it so that people were quite upset as well. So, but it's that whole thing of like, they just, when they're talking about exploration no longer being there at all, or when that guy was talking about it, yeah, he just didn't know what he was talking about. I'm sorry. They never do when they bring up this stuff that is apparently gone. It isn't. You can still play the games that way. The rules are still pretty much there. And you can just have a story too, or focus more on story, or focus on whatever. It doesn't matter. It's fine. You're fine. Anyway, thank you for the comment. And last but not least, of course, we have Timothy saying, "Hello, bros. Still working on lore. Great show as always. Have a nice day." Appreciate you. Thank you. And if you out there would like to leave a comment, please feel free, and we will read it at the end of the shows. Older isn't always better, one of my favorite sayings. Yes, that is fair. Anyway, that's that for comments. So we're gonna move on to shouting out, shilling, and all that kind of stuff. So thank you. Here we go. So we have a website. Oh boy, it's called www.tabletalkd&d.us. It's in the description if you wish to go and look at it. And you can go to the support us page, support us further, and see all the stuff that I'm going to talk about, and potentially support us further if you wish to that way. Here, you can see that we have a Patreon and a Ko-Fi. Wahoo! This is the Patreon, patreon.com/tabletalkcrew, and the Ko-Fi, tabletalkcrew. It's ko-fi.com/tabletalkcrew. Excuse me. You can join either of these, get the same exact benefits, become a member of the Table Flippers for as little as $1 a month, like these lovely people here, and support the show if you wish to. You can also join for free, I think, like this one. You can just like become a free member, so like you can do that if you want to. I don't know what that does, but like it's a thing. It's there. But regardless, thank you so much to our lovely table flippers, that being Steely, Draco Kraken, and Rick, aka Unirico, at tier 4. I was gonna say like Table Flipper Gold for some reason, and it's just, anyway, tier 4. Appreciate you very much. Thank you for supporting us for so long. We really appreciate it. And of course, a thank you goes out to Crimson Rose at tier 2. Thank you. And a thank you to our tier 1 contributor. If you wish to, it's as little as $1 a month. But up to you. I can't tell you what to do. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not your dad. But regardless, we move on. We have a fourth wall shop. You can get our lovely dice on there. Whoa. There it is. It's also got the Sunrise and Sin City mat here, as well as the keychains that you can get. The dice is there. The coasters, the lovely mug, the small mouse pad, Jerry the raccoon, and the TableTalk Crew notebook for your own campaigns to write in and all that. Up to you, of course. If you want to buy any of this, it will help support us a little bit. Up to you. And you get a thing. You get a thing for this. So get some of those dice. They're all right above me, actually. No. They're not above me. No, they're over there. Okay. They're behind me. But yeah, you can get dice, you can get all this stuff. Up to you. Moving right along. You can donate to the stream directly. Hey, you remember when I said I was going to fix this? I did. This donates to the stream directly. It'll put a little thing on my sidebar here in my OBS that I can read out later on. Also, I think it comes up on the screen if you do it through this. It's in the description as well, so like if you do want to do that, that's up to you. You don't have to. You really don't have to, but it is there. So it's no longer the PayPal because we don't use that. We don't use that anymore. So it's not there. And then, of course, we are affiliated with Humble Bundle. So there's a link in the description as well as this. You can click for the link to go to Humble Bundle. And anything you buy through here, you give us a little bit back. I think. I'm pretty sure. Look, Shadowrun 4th edition. It's nearly gone at the time of recording. So you'll probably not see it by the time you see this episode. Well, you might. But that's a thing, as well as, let's see if there's any other books. Doesn't Fate Forge. Ooh. I've never heard of this. That's a different TTRPG. There you go. The Art of Alex Ross. That's interesting. Dread and Darkness, a horror mega bundle? Ooh. Okay. I don't know what Fate Forge is, but let's see. It looks like a TTRPG that is... Ooh, I like that cover. What is this? Epic tale of gorgeous original art, thrilling engagements, and countless hours of gameplay has arrived with Fate Forge. Your adventures through this comprehensive 5th edition library will transport your party through the grandiose landscapes of Iena, filled with colorful civilizations and exotic locations like the bustling Free City. That's what it's called, Free City. Strategize with your party to defeat the demon princes from the Melancholian Moon and the brutal barbarian lords of the Canny Hordes to bring peace to the realm. Discover Studio Agate's award-winning Fate Forge series before it's gone, and help support the charity comic books for kids. Oh, nice. Looks neat. I love this art. This art looks great. Ooh, you get some STLs too. Ooh, PDFs. Ooh. I mean, these are all PDFs, but you know what I mean. The Game Master screen and all this. Is this a, I think this is a, like, 5th edition inspired game? D&D 5th edition, I will say. Or at least, not inspired, but, set game. So there you go. Cool. Yeah, it seems neat. So yeah, something like Fate Forge, maybe. Or anything else through the shop, the store, I mean, any of the other bundles, the Humble Choice bundle, anything you get with that link will help support us. So go and check Humble Bundle. See if you want anything through it using our link. If you want to, up to you. Ooh, Hard West 2. I still haven't finished Hard West. Wow. Anyway. Wrong one. We are also affiliated with the drive-through sites, so RPG Fiction Comics cards. The RPG side is the one that is the most relevant, so that's the one I'll talk about, but all of them can be found using the links on the website as well as the link in our description and then coming over here. If you use that link, anything you get within 15 days of using that link will support us a little bit. So up to you if you want to do that. I see there's a fucking Fallout sale going on. Woo-hoo-hoo. Welcome to the Wasteland. There you go. You can get some PDFs for that. Traveler, superheroes. That's a 5e thing. I don't know this. Somnus Domina. Ooh. Okay. Also, user-created stuff. Community stuff, I mean. So, yeah. Go and check Drive-Thru RPG and the Drive-Thru sites. Pretty good places. This is how we get books out to people when they win them in Garabingo. So, I would recommend it. Oh, The Secret World? Oh! I played the MMO of this. Oh, my goodness. Didn't know there was a... What? Oh, that's cool. Oh, shit. I should get this. The Secret World was neat. $4. That's pretty good. Okay. Well, how long is this going till? Very soon is when it will go away. Oh, damn it. Okay. You get the hardcover as well. Ooh. Anyway, genuinely, Drive-Thru RPG is pretty cool. But that being said, that's everything. That's all of it. I can give you no more because I have no more to give. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all this together right after this, upload it, and then go to bed. And that'll be at like 3 a.m. So, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all next week for more of the show. Yeah, appreciate you all. I guess I'll see you next week. Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye. Go away. I need to go. So you do too.